Okay, we're going to get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to this evening's town board meeting of Monday, December 18th.
Tell them to be respectful.
If everybody would be quiet, then we can. So I'd like to welcome everybody to this evening's town board meeting of Monday, December 18th, 2023 of the town of Amherst. We're going to begin this evening with an invocation from Deputy Supervisor Buckeye.
Thank you, Supervisor Culpa. As we approach the end of the year, it is a time to celebrate various holidays: Diwali, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa. So on behalf of the town of Amherst, we wish you the happiest of holiday seasons, as well as peace, joy, hope, and good health in 2024. And now for the pledge.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible.
And you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Okay. With that, we're going to ask the town clerk to please call the roll.
Supervisor Culpa.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Buckeye.
Here.
Councilmember Berger.
Here.
Councilmember Lavin.
Present.
And Councilmember Zucala.
First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from Monday, December 4th, 2023. A motion to adopt the minutes as they appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda, I did just want to let everybody know we had offered proclamations to both Pat Lucy, the outgoing superintendent of highway, and Deputy Supervisor Deborah Buckeye for their service and accommodation to the town. We have a couple of public hearings this evening. The second one is actually postponed until the second meeting of January, and it should not appear. That's Resolution 623. The first public meeting we have this evening is Resolution 1006. It's the Fire Protection District's contracts, Village of Williamsville and Town of Amherst, CRS numbers 4469 to 4475, 4477 to 4482. I'll motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, members of the town board. Sam Alba from the town attorney's office. Up on the screen, you will see the fire district budget amounts, which match the fire district contract amounts for 2024. Autumn harvest, $59,502.15. Lamb Post, 22 cents. Len Springs, $11,732.99. Mill, $10,948.87. Ellicott Creek, $719,065.25. North Amherst, $148,629.52. Gettsville, $1,372,981.20. Swarmville, $472,181.65. East Amherst, $774,110.37. Main Transit, $928,775.14. Park Club, $43,166.29. Williamsville Sheridan, $299,395.45. And North Bailey, $291,651.90. As noted, the fire district budget amounts match the fire district contract amounts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any questions from the town board regarding the contracts? Are there questions from the audience this evening regarding the contracts? I think there was a speaker. Please come forward. I'm going to ask you to just state your name and address for the record.
What was that all about?
So those are the fire district contracts for this year.
Thank you.
So, James Gramke, 143 Ruskin Road, and Councilman Skullduggery, I am a registered Republican, just so that will save you the time after the meeting. You won't have to look up my name to find my party affiliation. For those of you who don't know, it was noted in the Buffalo News that after the meeting on December 4th, this councilman and little Joey McNamara checked on people's party affiliations to see who were Republicans and who were Democrats. So that's what it says. That's what it says in the paper. I'm just reporting
Okay,
what's in the
all right,
Amherst
just
Bee,
wait.
or the Buffalo News.
Are you
please stay on
speaking
topic.
about
Yes, I am.
this,
Yes,
the
I am.
fire
Go ahead.
Yeah,
districts?
yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, and since there are 13 public hearings tonight, I would like to get 5 minutes for each public hearing.
That's not what the rules of order dictated.
Well, you're not sure. You're not sure on that. You and I have.
That's how we're interpreting it.
That's how you're interpreting it tonight. But I get.
Research it, and I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but we interpret our rules.
So I'll get, if you're wrong, I'll get 5 minutes at another meeting to go over.
Typically, if there's a person who has an issue that they wish to address on a public hearing, there's a provision for a 15-minute presentation. So to me, it sounds like you have a 15-minute
I
presentation.
do not have a 15-minute presentation, but I have questions regarding the fire contracts, okay? And it's my understanding that since they are budget-related, I get 5 minutes for each public hearing.
That is not our interpretation of the rules of order, but it sounds like the supervisor would yield 15 minutes to you.
Well, I have general.
This is one public
No, it is
hearing.
not. It is not. It is 13 public hearings.
No.
No, it is 13 public hearings because in the December 6th Amherst B, you spent taxpayer money. You spent taxpayer money for 13 public notices on fire prevention district contracts.
So what-
So that means there are 13 public hearings on this. And the other reason I'm here tonight is because the Amherst Bee in their editorial told me that I didn't do my job this year, and that's why the taxes are going up 11.4%, because I didn't do my job attending the meetings. So I'm here attending the meetings, 13 public hearings.
So why don't you go ahead and start with your comments?
Okay. so- Thank you. Okay, so I have four general, I'll just try to keep this brief, but I have six general questions regarding these contracts. And the first one is, I would like to know, when was the date of the last amendment of each of these district provisions, and what did those amendments relate to? The contract, and I'm referring to the contract section, there is it here, yes. Under the witnesses, the first full paragraph, it says that the town board amended the agreement on March 1940, this is for the village of Williamsville, March 1949, as amended from time to time. So I'm just curious to know when the last amendment was to that and what it related to.
There hasn't been one since I've been in office.
Okay. What about the other districts?
I have not seen an amendment to any of the districts as
Since
long
you've
as I've
been
been
in
in
office.
office.
But you don't know when the last one was. So you haven't been in office forever.
Right, I don't offhand, so the past 6 years, there have not been any
Okay,
amendments.
thank you. Can you describe?
I will, I'm sorry, take that back. There was an amendment to Swarmville and East Amherst. They're split districts with the town of Clarence. They saw changes in their LoSAP program, which is a savings plan that the town has to participate in. And it changed their entitlement years from 65 to 55.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And both of those were made last year.
Last year, okay, thank you. Can you describe the apparatus and the equipment that is being maintained by these districts?
It varies from district to district. In most cases, again, it varies. So if you're looking at Main Transit, Snyder, East Amherst, Swarmville, the portion that we have with Hutchinson, Hose, and Williamsville, Gettsville, Ellicott Creek, they tend to have similar apparatus. Most of the time, it's two engines, which are pumper trucks. Most of the time, there's an aerial platform or ladder. There's a rescue or a heavy rescue. There's chief vehicles, though oftentimes those are paid for by their association. There are, in the case of Ellicott Creek, I believe they have a swift water rescue group. So generally speaking, those are the larger apparatus, and then they all have some kind of air tank platform that they maintain as well. And then if you're talking about North Amherst, North Bailey does have an aerial platform. They still, I believe, operate two engines. The aerial platform's a little older. It recently replaced the hook and ladder. And North Amherst, there were a number of issues that we had with fire equipment during that snowstorm. The fire equipment that went out early by itself struggled, and we ended up pairing that equipment with town high lifts and tow trucks that ensured that we were able to respond and rescue. In the case of Gettsville, there were some equipment upgrades that were needed, and that's led to a larger than normal increase in their budget to ensure that we have the right equipment on standby. It's our largest district, and it responds to UB.
Okay, so all the districts will be able to operate under extreme adverse conditions like we had last year?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. What are the number of accidents and deaths for all calls during the past 2 years?
Each fire district maintains their own records on that. I think you would have to ask them.
So there's nobody here from these fire districts to answer these questions tonight?
I don't know that there's anybody here from fire districts regarding this. Chiefs and presidents do meet with us. We do review those statistics. I don't have those statistics offhand, but we do look at their call volume increases year to year.
Because the town has to pay for those.
We have to pay for the town has to pay for equipment.
Well,
for
no,
the most part.
they have to pay for medical expenses, loss of wages, compensation, benefits, and
Yes.
other claims arising from injury or death. Okay, so I'm just curious to know what the,
We had, I don't believe we had any claims last year that I know of. A couple of years ago, we did have a workers' disability claim from resultant accident.
okay. Have there been any audits by the New York State Comptroller of these divisions in recent years?
Not that I know of. They could independently audit the fire companies, but I'm not aware of that.
Okay. And then what exactly do the funds pay for?
the funds up here.
Yeah, the funds that are up here.
So the town has to maintain cancer insurance coverage for firefighters, LoSAP program, which is a savings plan, and basically capital equipment costs
Okay.
in buildings.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who has questions regarding the fire districts? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll motion to approve the fire protection district contracts for the Village of Williamsville, Town of Amherst, CRS 4469 to 4475 and 4477 to 4482.
Second.
All in favor? As I mentioned, Resolution 623 is adjourned until the second meeting in January. We'll move on to development review actions. First item is Resolution 1007, seeker determination on 420 New Road, Z 2023-08. I'll motion to adopt the seeker determination as it appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is Resolution 956, the adoption of a local law to amend the zoning map for 420 New Road, Z 2023-08. I'll motion to adopt that local law at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1008 is the seeker determination for 4774 and 47780 Sheridan Drive, Z 2023-07. I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker determination first.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm a no.
There's no, the public hearing's closed on the item. So, because last meeting we held a public hearing, we had speakers, we accepted the speakers. At the end of the public hearing, we motioned to close the public hearing.
But by the very fact that you mentioned it, you're saying it was on your agenda, but now you're closing it.
The public hearing was closed at the last meeting.
But there wasn't, it was on this agenda too, and that's why it's up on the screen.
It's not a public hearing. The public hearing was closed on the matter.
The town is not amenable to the public's
The-
concerns about this overdevelopment.
We're not amenable to breaking town code in order to extend public hearings.
Public noticed that there was going to be a meeting here tonight.
There is a
concerning this matter. Not that we're coming
He's out of
here.
order.
Okay.
Rule him out of order.
So
People are involved here.
Chuck,
These are residents
Sam
who
Elba.
are going to be impacted very powerfully by a 10-year project.
All right,
tearing
listen,
down old
we
homes and
we-
remodeling an old neighborhood. And the town should be open here to the public's concerns.
the town held a public hearing
Sir,
with
I'd like to point out that that public hearing was pretty much overrun by the first item on the agenda, which went on for well over an hour and a half. I was here and I had to leave. There are a lot of other people wanted to be here and had to leave because it went on forever, as we all know.
It doesn't matter.
Can you ask the public?
I understand the concern, right? So petitioners also have rights. And if we close a public hearing, we have law that says how you operate public hearings. It's state town law. It's this town law. We can't just open a public hearing.
Read the first
We can't override, but we can
Constitution
also,
of the United States.
no, nothing stop.
The First Amendment of the Constitution.
Dennis, enough. You're not going to act out of order this whole meeting. Stop. Right now, we're on a voting matter. The petitioner's here and has a right to hear a vote on the matter. There was a public hearing that was closed last meeting.
Let these people speak. Let these people speak. You represent.
We have a decision.
You represent these people.
Jeez. Dennis, enough. In a minute, everybody needs to sit down. Look, there's an opportunity to speak on the matter during public expression. You can't.
Everyone will have a chance to be heard during public
I said there was, I said, my exact words were, we're closing the public hearing and setting the decision date. There's a decision date on the agenda. That's tonight.
That's tonight.
Why don't you, I mean, at this point, we have a vote on the matter in front of us.
Can you hear us then? There's a few people
We've,
who want
mo-
to speak.
we can't reopen a public hearing. You can speak during public expression.
There is a terrible suspicion that the town rubber stamps big
I don't
development
think-
projects. And that's a terrible
I
shadow
don't-
to cast on the town board here.
I
Table the vote.
I don't think you,
Table the vote.
I,
Open it up to the public. There is much more to say about this project.
I don't know that you would be,
Table the vote. There are rules
Gee,
of order here, a procedure we have to follow. If we open public expression, it would be defective because tonight is not noticed.
Sir, try reading the Constitution of the United States. After you okay the project.
all right, enough. There is, you don't know how this body's about to vote.
You people were told about it.
We held a public hearing
You're wasting time.
relative to this. All right, we're moving on. I've motioned to adopt the seeker determination. Is there a second?
The town board, open it up to a further discussion at the next meeting perhaps?
Go to the next meeting.
There's so many people involved.
How do you even know what we're gonna vote? There's a protest. Okay, enough. Everybody, stop. There's a protest petition already enforced. 4 of us would have to vote in favor of the petitioner. So you don't know that we're going to let me get through the seeker findings and then we will move into the vote. I'm going to re-motion to accept the seeker determination.
Second.
On the question of the seeker determination, all in favor? Okay, so the seeker determination passes. Now, with respect to the local law, an adoption of local law to amend the zoning map for 420, I'm sorry, I'm at 420. For the zoning map for 4774 and 4780 Sheridan Drive, Z 2023-07. I'm going to first motion the adoption as it appeared in our agenda.
Second.
All right, on the question, is there discussion at the board level? What? Okay. Michael, please.
The planning board voted, Jackie, you're familiar with this. The planning board voted, and what did they say?
The planning board recommended to us that we approve the rezoning. The details of what happens at the site will occur at planning board meetings. They make the site plan decisions.
When I looked at it, and it's in the packet, it was heard at the October Planning Board meeting, and the vote was 4-1. So 4 were in favor, 2 were against, and then I don't know if 1 abstained or was absent. So 4 people voted yes.
I will say, and I maintain this, I still have concerns over the ingress and egress on the site. That's something that, you know, I would like to have some conversation directly with the neighboring property owners before we say, hey, we're going to create an L shape with a T at the end of it. That's
Discussing,
my primary concern.
are you talking about the Granvilles? Or who are you talking about?
Right now, there's an L shape with a T, and that's my primary concern, is how we get apparatus into and out of that.
But the L shape and T.
I understand.
Was designed so that it could connect if the other properties were ever developed.
I get that. And that is correct. However, right now, it's a long L shape and a T, and that's going to revolve that, you know, pending where we were last year at this time of year, we had problems with those types of properties.
And I Yeah,
That's
the con-
that's my primary concern. So I'm not confident that we have the votes to move this resolution forward at the moment.
So I would like to change it to tabling it to the second January meeting.
I just wanted to say, probably similar to what the supervisor expressed, I'm concerned that part of the parcel is being used, and there is still a part of the parcel that is not being used, and I would still like to see some conversation or some definitive conversation with a final decision to see if that situation might be able to be worked out and rectified.
But that parcel is not the parcel.
I-
Gleason's is one parcel.
I
The
know.
Granville's property
But if-
is another parcel.
But-
Actually, I think it's two parcels.
Well, if the additional parcel was
Somebody else has to
acquired,
motion it, 'cause I
then
already
there might be a
motioned.
different configuration of what ultimately might go in that area. That's my opinion. I mean, this is my last meeting, but that's what I would say.
So anyway, I changed the motion.
Wait, so you're making a motion?
I'm making a motion that we table it to the.
No,
second
so
meeting.
it's a motion to adjourn
Adjourn to the second meeting, sorry,
in January.
to January.
And I will second it.
When is the second meeting in January?
It hasn't been set yet because we haven't had our reorganization. It can't happen until our new board member is seated, and that will be the first meeting in January. And that's a reorganization meeting, and we set the dates for I can't tell you right now. Most likely, it'll be probably the 27th, 22nd, or 20,
I
don't-
think it's the 22nd.
what date
I don't
that
have it
is.
in front of me.
Okay. So there's a motion to adjourn to the second meeting in January. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried. So, residents, yes, so you could speak on public expression. We'll get to that in a few minutes, okay? So there is an opportunity to speak. The motion's been tabled, or adjourned. Now I'm doing it. Next item on the agenda is the issuance of supplemental finding statement for 772 North Forest Road, 385 Maple Road, and 391 Maple Road. I'm going to motion to adopt the issuance of supplemental finding statement as it appeared.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 1010, the approval of the planned unit development for 772 North Forest Road, 385 Maple Road, and 391 Maple Road. I'm going to motion to adopt the approval of the planned unit development as it appears.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is public expression. This is an opportunity for you to come up if you want to talk about items related to the local law change that you can now. I'm going to motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we're going to ask you to state your name and address for the record as you approach. So there is a list.
There are a number of pages of lists,
That's fine.
so I think you need to use,
Just hand them to me.
I'm trying to.
Okay. The first is Marcia Shapiro from about Gleason's property. Marcia?
Yeah, I was wondering how you're going to test for
You need to give your name and address,
Yeah,
please.
even though you wrote it down, I'm sorry.
Marcia Shapiro, 100 DeVille Circle. And I'm concerned about contaminants in the soil and how it's going to be regulated and controlled. I live right behind the property, and I've witnessed over the years all the spraying and stuff that's going down there, and it's a real concern what's going to be in the air and
Okay.
how it's going to be mitigated.
Okay, thank you. Sean Hopkins.
Good evening, members of the board. Sean Hopkins. I'm the attorney for the project that just got tabled in terms of the decision. And I want to note on behalf of Mr. Savarino, who's here this evening, he remains ready, willing, and able to meet with any neighbor anytime. Every single person who has spoken over the course of this lengthy review period, he has responded to in writing. He's had an informational meeting at the library. So giving us the extra time for some additional discussions is fine. And I also want to note, and I think it's an important point, and the previous speaker may have mentioned it, the most important aspect of this particular project is that site is contaminated. It's a brownfield. That's because of the former use as Gleason's Nursery. As a result, this is really the only way that we can effectuate an effective redevelopment of this site. Mr. Savarino has deliberately proposed owner-occupied units. So we think the project does have a lot of merit. We encourage anyone else who has comments to speak. Rob is taking very detailed notes, and if necessary, we'll have another meeting with the neighbors prior to your second meeting in January. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Christine Koziel.
Good evening. My name is Christine Koziel, and I'm at 59 Kingsway Drive. I'm speaking on behalf of the 166 Klein project. Just want to let you know that this proposed development sits between Bentley and Eastwick and Kingsway Drive. It's important to keep in mind that just in the past 3 years, Klein Road and just between these two intersections has, 1, almost collapsed at Kingsway Drive to a water main break. 2, saw another massive water main break at Klein and Eastwick. 3, then 2 days later, saw another massive water main break, this time right across the street from the proposed development site. 3 water main breaks in 3 years, 2 of them being 3 days apart. It's also important to note that the town has to put a road flooded sign when it rains more than 1 inch, since our water system cannot handle the additional flow. Earlier this year, National Fuel fielded over 200 phone calls from concerned residents, including myself, regarding the odor of gas inside their homes. It was so strong, I thought my house was going to blow up. The technician that came out informed me that there was a sewer issue in our immediate area, and sewer issues are nothing new for us. Neighbors on Bentley Court have a constant sewer smell that the town cannot correct. Our other neighbors have called the town out for assistance with their sewers, and their answers are, well, we'll fix it as best as we can, but you have to remember, our sewers are undersized and outdated. If this 18-home development moves forward, adding 54 plus toilets, sinks, showers, our already fragile utility system will not be able to handle the additional strain, and the town will be here, even more than it already is, constantly making repairs. These concerns have been brought up in the planning board meetings, so the developer is well aware of the issues that our utilities in our area has. They want to build 18 condos on a tiny piece of land with known water and sewer issues, and they want to stick the town with the bill for maintenance. If they want this to be a private road so bad, make them pay for it. I ask you not to grant their request. Thank you.
Brian Koziel.
Hi, Brian Koziel, 59 Kingsway, also speaking on behalf of the 166 Klein Road project. I know that this project now is kind of carried on into what feels like forever. I think it's on its 3rd or 4th year, and it still seems though as if at this time we're still no planning board nor town board approved design, safety plan, environmental plan. It seems as though every time it seems as though that there's a step forward with it, there's quite a few steps back. For the residents of the area involved that live on Kingsway, that live on Klein, that live on Chestnut Hill, that live on Bentley, that live on Eastwick, it seems as though that this project just seems to catch red flag after red flag after red flag. We're asking that the board at this time deny their access for this private road project, which would put the town on the hook for a lot of those maintenance issues that were just brought up. It just does not seem like it's the proper fit for this small parcel of land to jam this 18 condo project into this area that also is attached to the Great Bear Swamp and all the issues that go with that, with the wetlands being delineated to other areas and along those lines. We've already, received word that the waiver was given for the distances in between Bentley Court and Kingsway Drive, that it doesn't fit what is the normal distance to have in between streets, that waiver was granted. We still, as residents, really haven't found out why that was granted. We just think there's so many safety concerns with it being a high area where there's many families and kids and buses, and you're all aware of the traffic that lines up on Klein Road with its intersection up meeting there with the Klein and Hopkins intersection. And it just seems as though that would be, I think, not in the town's best interest for safety, beyond the environmental impact, beyond the fact that the town would be on the hook for this private road status. It just seems like it's not the right project in that area. I think that the town should really consider denying this special waiver, and that the amount of red flags that we continue to have with this project, at some point, I feel like it should be obvious to everyone that maybe this project's not fit for that location. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alicia Schreier.
I also need to speak on 360.
You get a chance. Once we get through the list, then we'll,
Second on the list. I'm here at 6 o'clock. How do you get on the list, Brian?
there was a sign-in list up front. What's your name?
Shabala.
I'm sorry, I grabbed one sheet and there's a second sheet underneath it, so, you are on the list. Can I keep going down this list? And then we'll,
Whatever.
okay.
Brian, can you put my name on the list?
Once we get through this list, we'll open it up for everybody else to come up. Alicia, please go ahead.
Alicia Schreier, 79 Tristan Lane, and I'd like to speak on the Sheridan Drive rezoning. Yes, I can. I'm going to speak on the Sheridan Drive rezoning. So in the package from the developer, we have a few points that I'd like to address. The points from the package: the proposal is compatible with the present zoning and conforming uses of nearby property with the character of the neighborhood. I'd like to say the character of the neighborhood across the street from the Park Country Club is old, established, large homes on large lots with big trees. It might even be described as stately. Unit homes of any kind, even high-end ones, are not a blend into this neighborhood, but rather a permanent change to its character. Furthermore, for those people looking to purchase a 2-bedroom home for $500,000, there's already development of such homes in Essex Woods, the Preserve at Glen Meadow, Asher Crossing, Windstone Patio Community, and Fairwood Estates. I don't believe we have evidence of additional demand for these types of homes, and that's an address to point E, which states the proposed change tends to improve the balance of uses and meets a specific demand in the town. Lately, our government has taken a strong stand on conservation and going green and saving the environment. Let's keep some of the green area in Amherst green. I would rather see Amherst use tax dollars to buy that green space and leave it undisturbed than to use the tax dollars to launch a brownfield cleanup program. I am a longtime resident of Amherst. I have lived here more than half of my life, and I love this town. For this project, I am strongly against rezoning right in the middle of my neighborhood for double-unit dwellings, against the extra traffic, against the disturbance of the wildlife and the contaminated ground, against the disruptive construction. We have plenty of ongoing development filling in our green spaces. Let's go green with this one. And I would like to invite everyone behind me who's also against this to raise their hand so the board knows that we are against this and you represent us. So I do have a question off the previous hearing. I don't think we addressed the answer to that question. The developer said that his plan for additional cleanup, should it be necessary, would come from the association that would be formed from the development, the homeowners there. And my question is, what if they can't afford additional cleanup? This is expensive. Say their association fee cannot afford to clean it up anymore. Then who is paying for additional cleanup? What happens? I don't know. I don't know what the plan is for the wildlife that's currently living there. Are you just planning, they will relocate themselves, or you're just going to kill our wildlife? That's part of the what makes our neighborhood lovely. I don't know what the plan is for the additional 3 properties that are currently being looked at as is, and I don't know exactly how brownfield cleanups get paid for, but I suspect it's from taxpayer dollars. So I'm against.
Okay, thank you. Sharon?
Hello, I'm Sharon Kalika, 88 Tristan Lane. 88 Tristan Lane. I agree with everything with Alicia said. I'm just going to add to it. The 11 double units, which is 22 homes, in that insufficient space. Mr. Savino told me that he needed to change it to an R4 to take advantage of the New York State brownfield cleanup programs for the toxic land, which is on the taxpayer's dime. He told me if he doesn't get it disapproved, he would abort the plans. I did email all of you this early today, and he told me this personally at the October 4th meeting that we had with the local neighbors. And he said that he didn't want to pay for it himself. So if you approve it, then he would be selling this. So if you didn't approve it, he won't get the cleanup that he needs for this area, and he would abort the program. And we also already have 20 or plus homes on those streets nearby that are empty homes. Why can't people live there? They're not $500,000 homes. They're empty. They can be used by other people, plus the homes, the houses and developments that Alicia talked about that are still waiting vacant that people can move into. And also, why development on Sheridan Road? It's a main road. It's going to be busy. And the debris, the construction, the dirt, the dump trucks, the chemicals, and the air, it's pollution. It's going to be a hazard when this construction starts. God knows how many years, 7, 8, 9 years, and that's just the phase 1 that the Raz Development Company is proposing here. I did email you. I'm Sharon Kleeker. I think all of you this morning, I hope you got that. Plus, I did the attachment and the proposal of another, because he is looking at the other properties for phase 2. And that is my objection to this whole proposal and what Alicia said and what the other people are concerned about on this project. And take it to another street, Maple Road or something. Thank you.
Edgar De Leon.
'50 Jordan Road, right next to Gleason's. You mentioned earlier, Mr. Supervisor, that some of us weren't able to make it, and I can't speak for everyone, but I wanted to make the last meeting, but because I was ill, I decided not to share, so wasn't here for that meeting. I, with a group of neighbors, went and canvassed the area to get people to sign the protest petition. I quickly found out that if a development were to go into that area, a lot of the neighbors are elderly. Therefore, if there are any complications, we will be adversely affecting people's homes already. The way that the land sits, due to the building codes of today, there will be a lot of runoff to the neighborhoods around. Some people on DeVille, which is right next to that parcel of land, already complain of flooding. This will only make that worse. Also, one of the arguments for rezoning is to apply for federal funds to clean up the area. Why do we have to pay the expense, not just the taxpayer money, but the expense of rezoning in order to make them townhomes, and then in order to get the funding to clean up the land when this is a private sale to a developer? Can't he just get a better deal on the land? There was already an exemption to increase the number of homes from, I believe 20 was the max, to 22. This argument was made in order to make it profitable for the developer. Again, this is stressing the fact that the land value being sold is asking for an increase of homes to make it profitable. I get it, but again, my interest is for what goes in there. My interest is not the bottom line for the other party. At the planning board meeting that we had in October, I was present, and it was brought to our attention that out of the several options to clean up the land, the most affordable option is the route that they're trying to take. Now, I have small children next to that dirty piece of land. I am concerned for the health of not just my children, but the people around us that will be affected by the cleanup process for however long it takes. I am concerned about the association viability long-term, because the mortgage problems were addressed at the last meeting in October. I will address, what if the association fails? How does that affect our area? I am against the rezoning of this property there on Sheridan, the Gleason property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Alexis Alfaso.
Hello, my name is Alexis Alfaso. I live at 60 Jordan Road. Is that better? Yes. Better? Is this good? Okay. I have contacted all of you via email, and I actually met with Mr. Culpa 6 weeks or so ago. So I hope you read your emails and know the items that the neighborhood is objecting to. I was one of the people behind creating the official protest petition, which is the neighbors, basically it's only the adjacent neighbors that are allowed to sign that and make it count as a protest petition. But it's clear that the neighbors throughout the community, throughout all of those streets surrounding this area, they're against it. This is the developer is proposing something that is not in the character of our neighborhood. In fact, in his original meeting, he said that they would be beautiful condos, $500,000 to $750,000 each. Aside from the fact that this does not reflect the character of our neighborhood, I don't think Amherst needs more almost $1 million homes. We need affordable homes, but we don't need more $1 million homes. He, at his initial meeting, he said that he needed to have more dense development so he could access brownfield money. Brownfield money is state taxpayer money. And the person who originally worked the land, Gleason's, and is responsible for creating this issue, I in no way blame him for it. I'm sure these were allowable chemicals at the time. They're not now. But I still don't see why he should sort of pass the problem on to the taxpayers. He has the funds. He's a reasonably wealthy man. He's alive as far as I know. He's not alive now. You're saying no. Well, his estate is still there. Right. So I just don't see why the taxpayers should basically help fund a reasonably wealthy estate as well as prop up a developer. It's zoned R3. I think it should remain R3. And the other objection I have is that the developer has proposed in excess of R4 development. And I don't understand why that would even be considered. Does anyone have a comment on that?
This isn't, it's not our proposal, right? So they're bringing it to us.
They are. And why isn't that being rejected just because it's even above an R4 at this point?
At the moment, it's stayed till January. I think there's questions about it, but again, it's not ours to answer at the moment. So it's a point you're asking us to reject it based on that, and I think that's a valid point. And
Thank you. In addition to which, we did try contacting you via email. No one, except for the incoming board member, Angela, actually ever contacted me back, although I did speak with you, Mr. Culpa. So I'd like you to listen to the neighbors. I'd like you to listen to the people who have voted for you, and I'd like you to please vote against rezoning to R4. Thank you very much.
Don Smith.
I'm sort of the intermission here, something different, as I usually am. On Resolution 2023-1009.
For the official record, since I asked everyone else name and address.
Okay, Don Smith, North Lawn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I was looking at that particular supplemental recertification of the seeker statement essentially for the Amherst Central Park and all the issues related to that. And like all things, I started reading the actual agenda, and I got to a place and I took a look at what is probably packet page 463. And there was some stuff in there about consistent with the social and economic and others, and I was going on, well, what is this? So what I really found out is that what I really was sort of trying to find out about wasn't what I was trying to find out about. The issue I'm trying to find out is sort of clarity, openness, and ability for the people here to find out what's really going on. Paragraph 2 of the certification is lifted directly from Seeker Statement 611-11-D-5, which is taken verbatim from the seeker document, essentially. Well, that tells me absolutely nothing on why you put it in here. The next step was, well, let me see what's going on here. So it's the planned unit development document that follows, essentially describing all the things that's being done. This is the certification process, which is a formalization process that you have to do with the state government, which is what I want to figure it all out. When I read the whereas, I don't know what's going on. Your resolutions aren't really transparent, aren't really good for us to find out what's going on, really. I mean, I'm sure they're good for the state, and the state needs this information. So I'm just going to make one point here. I think it's probably important. I think the public needs to know how this Amherst Central Park process is going to go forward, and you detailed it out. And I've got several questions in there, and I won't have the time to ask them, so I'll have to ask them some other time, because frankly, nobody has the interest today. They want something else to talk about. But frankly, the transparency, what I've always been asking about is openness, transparency, good language for the people to understand, try to figure out a way to educate the public. That's what I've always been here. I've been doing that for at least 15 years. So try to do better. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Bill Blake. That's fine.
My name is Bill Blake. I live at 147 Fairlawn. Been a resident of the town of Amherst for about 45 years. I've never spoken at one of these meetings. I've only been to two in my entire life. Never felt the need I had to be at one. And as a side note, about 2 hours ago, my daughter, son-in-law, and 6-month-old new grandson, who I've not met yet, flew in from London, and I'm standing here in front of this board talking to you. So I'm not real popular at home right now, but I feel that based on how I've seen things play out in the last couple months, that somebody's got to stand up and make their feelings known. So what I would like to do is spend my time talking about this 2% cap override, because I think it really represents how things get done in this town. On September 16th, the controller posted a 269-page 2024 budget approval on the TrackUs website. This website has no RSS feeds or anything that alerts me to something that was just put up there. I can get a message on my phone when the Sabres score a goal within about 3 seconds. But an important thing like this that goes up that I need to know about, I got to go hunt for it. On page 17 of that document, of that 269-page document, under the totals column, is a difference between 23 and 24 of $10,493,543. And next to that is a percentage, 11.43%. Isn't that odd? That number would never be spoken in another public meeting until it was published in the Buffalo News on November 14th. And I can be real cynical and make up reasons why that wasn't published in any of the meetings, but I'll leave it at that. On the 16th of October board meeting, 46 minutes into the meeting, Supervisor Kolpa said, "We're starting to crest the tax cap." Now, if I was sitting here in that meeting, when I heard the word crest, I would not have thought that it was going to go much more than 1 or 2%. But he needed the ability to exceed the 2% cap. He turned it over to the public. There were no questions. I don't think anybody had any red flags fly up. From October 24th to November 1st was early voting in Erie County. 35,000 people took advantage of that, me and my wife being one, because we thought we had all the information we needed to make an intelligent choice. The October 30th board meeting, 2 minutes and 20 seconds into it, you can see this on YouTube, Supervisor Kolpa says, "We stayed below the cap this year. We still have some more work to do, but there's a resolution tonight on the tax cap, and I anticipate that we're going to adjourn and can just continue to work on the budget." So the vote was delayed. On Election Day, November 7th, again on this TrackUs website with no RSS feeds unless you're looking at it, a special meeting was announced to be held within 48 hours on November 9th. The purpose was to consider the resolution to override the tax cap, capital improvement, and a new budget amendment, transparency, financial transparency, which I find somewhat ironic. On November 9th, the special board meeting began at 4:30. It lasted all of 12 minutes and 41 seconds. Councilwoman Berger wasn't here, so we had to rearrange the format to change the vote to the end until Councilwoman Berger got here, because Councilwoman Buckeye was a no vote. Supervisor Kolpa had the amendment to the tax override read by Sean, And at about 10.5 seconds into the meeting, you could hear someone from the public start to ask questions. Supervisor Culpa said, "We're in an active motion, you can't talk right now." Right about that point, Councilwoman Berger arrived, and Resolution 843 was passed. Right after that, Supervisor Culpa said the meeting was adjourned. That meeting did not follow the town's rules of order. You skipped public expression. There was no public expression. So the meeting was adjourned improperly. And I think the residents would agree that we need to revisit everything in that meeting. Now, I'm no fool. I know that the County of Erie is now printing the tax bills, and that can't be stopped. But I think a resolution should be put on the table to tell the residents to pay your taxes on February 15th, but pay them 11.42% short until we can have a proper meeting where we can express our thoughts on raising our taxes to that extent. We have a petition being circulated in the town with thousands of signatures. I'm not going to present them tonight. But I think when you do get them, it'll send a loud, clear message that this isn't right. You cannot raise people's taxes in this type of environment, economic environment, that much. And I will say that if instead of reaching the crest, if you had said we're going to raise your taxes 4.2%, I would have bet that the people that are now going to be sitting in these seats would have had a hard time getting elected. Thank you.
Dennis Sizwala. No, I said Dennis Sizwala, yes.
I don't think I can top that. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Dennis Shivala, S-Z-Y-W-A-L-A, 31 Bentley Court. This is concerning resolution
Address, please.
31 Bentley Court.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. All right. This is concerning 166 Klein. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about the waiver request on the proposed patio home development on the 166 Klein property. I've been a resident in the adjoining Bentley Court subdivision since 1991. A little history, as I was told when I first moved in. It is my understanding that when the Bentley Court subdivision was initially laid out, the owner of 166 Klein, who's now deceased, was asked if he wanted to integrate his property into the development by having a road from his property into Bentley Court, thus solving the problem of entering into Klein. He declined as he wanted to keep the land undeveloped. In fact, he used to tap the sugar maples back there. Unfortunately, this was one of the only reasonable options to avoid a separate entrance to Klein, if and when 166 Klein was to be developed. Now, to work around this, the developer has proposed a separate entrance directly into Klein and has requested and received a waiver of the 500-foot rule. I truly believe the consequences will be that the town of Amherst will ultimately have to install traffic control infrastructure to manage this at considerable taxpayer expense, 11.1%. As a transparency issue, there are concerns about the traffic studies that were used. Should the developer be required to install or pay for this infrastructure? Do we need a decision before the developer proceeds? Also, at the August Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board required changes to the proposal to include a circular cul-de-sac to enable large emergency vehicles and school buses to turn, and sidewalks to ensure pedestrian safety. These are not minor changes to the proposal. For transparency's sake, we still have not seen how the developer will address this. This is critical, as the area is swampy and adjacent to the Bear Swamp. Any impact on drainage and retention should be reviewed and approved before any final approval or additional waivers. Will the town and the taxpayers be responsible in the future if there's a flooding problem? Now the developer wants a waiver to require the town to maintain the proposed water and sewer systems on what is a private development. This is before we even know the final road layout. This will be a considerable expense, again, to the taxpayer. Further, we do not know how this additional stress will impact the area water and sewer lines and at what cost, as was spoken about earlier today. Incremental changes can often be a successful strategy for the developer. This is an opportunity for the board to step in. The developer has not yet turned a shovel. What will the next waiver request be? I strongly suggest that the board not approve this waiver. For transparency's sake, if the developer wants to proceed, have him develop a new proposal that addresses all these concerns and present it to the planning board, open to public discussion. You know, just as a side issue, a while back, there was a comment made by one of the developers, either the lawyer, that this land was R3. Yeah, it's been R3. That whole area was R3 for a long time. There were decisions made by the prior owner and by the developer at Bentley Court that basically landlocked that land. I'm sorry, I can't be responsible for what was done 40 years ago. But that land, although it's R3, decisions were made that make it not buildable. And I would like, again, for you guys to realize that and think about what you're doing. An 18-unit patio home development is not appropriate for that area. Do you have any questions? I have a copy of what I did here, if you'd like to look at it at a later date. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, Danny Farrell.
My name is Danny Farrell. My address is 92 Park Haven Drive. My wife is a property owner for the town of Amherst and has been for 33 years. We're a senior citizens and we have a limited income. And I know there's a lot of people here that have a lot of limitations on their income as well, as far as having a fixed income, and especially senior citizens. When you throw in an 11.4% property tax cap or raise, whatever the hell, you're putting a lot of strain on senior citizens. Not only me, but a lot of other people that are here. I don't come out to these town board meetings, and a lot of this stuff is just like way over my head. But I'll tell you what, when it comes down to the bottom line, you're asking me to pay money that I just really don't have. What this town board and this town supervisor thinks about the property taxpayers of this town is that we're infinite cash cows. We're not infinite cash cows. when you have to tighten your belt, you got to tighten your belt. If you don't know what that is, I'll show you. I'm sorry. That's about as tight as I can tighten my belt. What you need to do is take your pork barrel projects and your extravagant whatever, you need to pare it down, tighten it up. Tighten your belt. Me as a taxpayer and a property owner, that's what I'm asking of this town board and this town supervisor. Thank you. God bless America.
All right, David Granville.
Good evening, Dave Granville, 11 Plymouth, and I'm executor for my father, 4790 Sheridan Drive, and my brother Kelsey is executor for my mother, same address. Thank you for this opportunity for public expression, and Supervisor, Deputy Supervisor, thank you for your service. And council members, thank you for taking the time. I have 5 questions that I'd also like to thank Mr. Savarino and his council for offering additional opportunity. The 5 questions that the board or that have not been addressed, I was speaking to staff earlier and it was mentioned this would be an appropriate time. So in the short time I have, should the project be ADA compliant? Should it be ADA is one question. And with the density requested, should 2 additional things be included, and that is a traffic study, noise, light, pollution study. There was earlier mention that a variance for the R4 zoning to allow 22 units in lieu of the 20 units originally proposed. What is the rationale? What is it economic only? There are 2 parcels, the 4774 and the 4780. The 4780 is the contaminated. The 4774 is not contaminated. It is not contaminated. You voted to approve the seeker earlier, and thank you for adjourning the variance. Since 4774 is not contaminated, it was never part of the nursery, what is the rationale to change the zoning of this parcel? And the last point, and if you recognize me, you might have seen me in the late 60s, early 70s, trick-or-treating with my pillowcase on Fleetwood and Tristan and DeVille Circle and 50. Jordan, did you grow up there? No. Thank you for this opportunity. The petitioner, Sean Hopkins, was the attorney for the 3 developers. And this is an idea to consider in Amherst. Does Amherst allow this practice I was advised that maybe it's only for town projects, but if a named developer does not live up to the performance or payment, is a bond needed? Should bonds to protect against disruptions or financial loss due to failure to complete a project or failure to meet the project specifications be required? Thank you.
All right, Andrea Morganti.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Morganti, and I reside at 253 Woodshire Court. I'd like to thank each of you board members for giving me the opportunity to provide some public comments. In addition, I would also like to thank Mr. McMahon for responding to my questions I presented at the December 4th meeting. I have some comments about the newspaper article that appeared in the Amherst Bee, whereas Councilman Lavin calls for more transparency. Mr. Lavin indicated in the article that the proposed law seeks to address the concerns of Amherst residents who were unable to participate in the budgetary process or did not know how. However, I was at the November 9th meeting when the resolution for transparency was being discussed. If this statement is true, tell me why at 4:41 p.m. a question was raised during the discussion of this resolution, and Mr. Culpa said, and I quote, "We are in an active motion. We are not in a moment where we can give a give and take." At 4:43, Mr. Culpa adjourned the meeting and did not allow any of us to raise any questions. Mr. Culpa and the rest of the board members stood up and left the chambers. So, Mr. Lavin, where was the transparency then? Why are you now interested in having the public sign your petition for transparency? Did you get the impression that the residents of Amherst have had enough? So, did you behave? That they've had enough of the behind the closed door negotiations. You indicate that I did not bring up those concerns to my fellow board members, but after hearing from the residents in the community, I thought this would help create the transparency for residents of the town. But Mr. Lavin, you heard we had concerns on November 8th. Is the reason you did not react at that point because there was only 20 of us in the audience. But now that over 100 residents came to the December 4th meeting, you woke up. The residents of Amherst have always demanded transparency. It doesn't need a petition from you for us to now be awarded our rights.
Hear, hear.
In closing, Mr. Zucala, you indicated that if the residents became angry that you would call for a break. With respect, I don't believe this would be a professional response to the residents who you work for and who voted you into office. Let the residents vent, and you just listen. May I approach?
Shelley Schratz.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? I would first, before this meeting goes any further, I want to thank Deborah Buckeye for all her service for the town of Amherst. I had the honor of serving with Deborah, and I'll tell you what, she's a woman of integrity. Her yes is a yes, her no is a no, her heart was always with the people, and she did what's right. It was an honor, and I want to say thank you. I kissed you, but it's true. Okay. I too was at those meetings. I too have a lot of thoughts. But first, I want to say, I did say at that meeting, I did ask for you to let the people speak, and you refused. The people asked to speak, and you refused. There's a part of the meeting which I find is interesting, was that when the meeting ended and we were all telling you what we felt, the meeting was cut. There was no more record of it. There was no mic that you could hear what we had to say. The people that left this room, many of them, were your parents' age, or they could have been people with disabilities. It could be a lot of different things, but we take it for granted. So we are getting thousands of signatures, all right? But not because we're out there asking for them. I want you to understand clearly, the people are reaching out to us. They're reaching out to me, because I'm an advocate in this town, in the country, in the county. I do whatever I have to do. That's who I am. But you guys have dropped the ball. In a sense of respect and transparency, I hope it changes. And I think with Mrs. Martinucci on the board, maybe, just maybe, you will get your courage to have your voices. The people don't elect us to keep our mouths shut, and I don't mean to be rude with that. They elect us to be their voice, and we don't have the opportunity or the option to choose who we listen to and what we repeat that they've said to us. There are people in this room that can't stand me because when I was on the board, because I didn't do everything they wanted me to do. But I did my best, and I never neglected them. And that's what has to change. This government is not about Washington, D.C., the Senate, the county, or whatever. It's about this wonderful town of Amherst, which the people that I hear from feel we're destroying it. And that's not saying, Brian, that all your projects are bad. But what it's saying is they have no voice. And they have said, when you were at the village and you were just a trustee, you listened. They say, where have you gone? So I don't respond. This is my time. And I'm saying that respectfully. I'm here to give you these two pieces of paper on behalf of the people that signed our petitions, number one. And number two, Andrea Morganti asked me to do it. Subject, FOIL request, 2023, phone logs. I respectfully request a copy of all the records from July 1st, 2023 to the current date for phone logs for all cell phones and landlines paid for by the town of Amherst. Please email me the documents requested to, and her email's here. If my request requires classification, please contact me via email here. If there is a cost associated with my request, please contact me via the email above so that I may have the opportunity to review the records first before any charges are applied and documents emailed to me. If for any reason any portion of the document is redacted, please inform me of the reason, applicable law for each redaction. If for any reason any document or the entire request is denied, please inform me of the reason and applicable law for the denial in writing and provide the name, address, email of person or body to whom an appeal should be directed. Respectfully, Andrea Morganti. The second one. Subject for a request 2024, tax levy override documentation. I respectfully request a copy of all records from January 1st, 2023 to the current date for all correspondence, which shall include emails, letters, memorandums, minutes, opinions, statements, texts, etc., and all documents that are party to said correspondence, such as reports, statistics, data, etc., as it applies to the override of the tax levy for the budget year 2024. Please email the documentation requested to the address here. If your request requires clarification, please contact me at the address. If there are costs, the same thing as before. Costs with my request, contact her, email, and so on. If for any reason any portion of a document is redacted, please inform me of the reason and applicable law for each redaction. If for any reason any document or the entire request is denied, please inform me of the reason and the applicable law for the denial in writing and provide the name and address, email address of the person or body to whom an appeal should be directed. Respectfully, Andrea Morganti. And I have one other request from the board. There are many residents that would like to be a part of the boards that have, I understand, most of them have already been pre-filled. People have not been responded to. I also was recently told, and I hope this is not the truth, because we have very qualified residents in this town that may not be here tonight that want to be on the planning board. But I heard the previous board member is going to be reappointed for a third term. I hope that is not the truth. It is out there. I'm telling you this. You know who he is. He ran against us. But all I'm saying is you have good people. And you sat up here, Michael, and I respect it, and said, we need good people. I can tell you, I can give you hundreds of them. They want to be on our boards. And that is how we don't have to keep creating new departments to take things over. And that's how you, the board, aren't ridiculed and accused of lack of transparency, because you include them. So that's it. Happy New Year.
Todd Craigs, please come up.
My name is Todd Craigs. I'm from Ransomville, New York. My address is 1974 Langdon Road. I'm here to talk about the Amherst sewer sludge contract. So I am the owner of Craig Co. I am the current hauler for the past 6 years. In the current bidding, I was the second lowest bid. I was here at the last meeting, but I have had some new data, and I wanted to express that with you also. So there's a Federal Motor Carriers Act administration. They are current with the safety of every DOT vehicle on the road. My competitor, Stancor, the last meeting, which was 2 weeks ago, was at 55% out of service rate. And they had, let me get my thought here real quick. What they had was, they have went to 60% out of service rate, which means they had 8 more violations within 2 weeks, mostly brake issues. Their safety rating went from, it's at 137 points, which is unheard of in the DOT world. There's just not responsible. Now, I want to compare something with you. With the 60% out of service rate, Craig Co. is at 14%. Our violations are at 3 for the past 2 years. Spancor is at 46. You have an irresponsible company trying to bid on something. I also want to share with you also, they had 12 inspections. That's a DOT stop. Check your brakes, check everything. Out of 12, they failed 11. Craig Co. had 11 inspections. We had 2 violations. This is in a 2-year span. I just want you to understand that these records are updated daily, and I pulled this off today. So on the Town of Amherst contract, and this is the formal instructions to bidder. The Town of Amherst, you'll have to excuse me because I ran out the door without my glasses here, but the Town of Amherst reserves the right to reject any and all bids. The town does not obligate itself to the lowest bid, but to the most responsible bidder. You can check that out on page 11 of 24, and it's 5, 6, and 7. I just want you to understand the safety involved. We're hauling 17 tons of sludge every day, 6 times a day, pretty much 4 days a week. If somebody ain't stopping, somebody's going to get hurt. And the record speaks for itself. My company versus their company. Yes, we're a little more money. We're talking $33 that I'm higher. I think that's peanuts in the overall scheme of things if you have a wreck with an Amherst roll-off container on that competitor's truck. And that's all I have to say. And I would like to share this. I highlighted some information. I didn't make you all packets, but you can look at it. It's data there. It's on public knowledge. You can. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right, Tom Mislin.
Tom Mislin, 32 Joliet. I have to say I'm very disappointed watching you folks. Many of you are sitting up there rolling your eyes. You know, that's unacceptable. Your tax height, unacceptable. We are currently not getting services. We are currently not getting services we are paying for. The leaf collection this year was horrible. I believe it was last March when we had the big snowfall, we had one snow plowing. The shoulders were not cleaned off. The intersections were not cleaned off. Sheridan Drive was down to 2 lanes for, I believe, more than a week. Emergency vehicles couldn't get through. We're not getting what we pay for, and now you're asking for more money, an extreme amount of money. Thank you.
Okay, Kim Gable. Kimberly.
Good evening to all present tonight. My name is Kimberly Gable. I live on President's Walk in Williamsville. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Also, thank you, Mr. Zucala, for responding via email to the questions I had presented to the board 2 weeks ago. The information provided was helpful, and I responded in kind. Other elements of the last meeting, however, left me with more questions and answers, and I would like to address a couple of my concerns. Mr. Culpa, you were quoted as saying that a couple of $100s is not a big deal. Perhaps that may be the case for you, but to many town residents, some on fixed incomes, a couple of $100s is a lot. We have no choice but to pay attention now, given the current economic conditions of the country that filter right down to us. And during these financial downturns, we families have to make adjustments to our ways of living. Now is not the time to go out and purchase a brand new luxury car if you're struggling to pay your utility bills. That's common sense. I fail to recognize how our town government should not abide by those same simple rules. You don't spend above the budget. You don't spend above the budget you have to work with. When you decide new streetlights must go in immediately, or you desire to further develop the Boulevard Mall or Westwood, if there isn't funds readily available for these projects, you don't proceed with them, as it isn't a financially sound decision. And I say you, as I don't feel that the town residents truly desire these big budgeted projects right now. I'm sure if you asked any one of these residents here tonight if they are happy with the direction the town is going, the answer would be a resounding no. It isn't fair to push these projects through and then raise taxes ridiculously high to cover for it after the fact. Now, regarding Westwood, from what I can gather, we seem to have gotten a bum deal in the end. The property sold to Mensch in 2012 for $2.5 million. Mensch realized that major remediation to the site was going to be necessary, so it applied for grants to help do that work. After many back and forth discussions, legal battles, closed-door negotiations, not only does Mensch not have to remediate the property, but we're going to pay them $7.75 million for it, when the current assessment at the time was $1 million and full market value was $1.35. How does it make any sense to pay 82% over full market value, which indicates what any other person would be willing to pay for that property, knowing full well that the town is now stuck footing the bill for the remediation? And speaking of remediation, you mentioned to the Buffalo News in November of last year that the site is not really a brownfield. But according to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Westwood does indeed, by definition, constitute a brownfield. Changing the verbiage does not negate the high levels of arsenic in areas of the acreage in question. I perused a 378-page document drawn up by the DEC in November of 21, indicating that although acceptable levels of arsenic, a known carcinogen, are 16 milligrams per kilogram of soil, there's multiple areas that have levels exceeding 200. This is in addition to other potentially toxic metals on the site, including cyanide, lead, and mercury. And why move the museum? The museum was founded to preserve, interpret, and exhibit the agricultural history and rural heritage of the Buffalo Niagara region. Tonawanda Creek, where the museum is located, is one of the only natural waterways utilized in the Erie Canal to take the canal to the Niagara River. The position of the museum along the creek is integral to the story of our history, and for that reason alone, the museum should remain where it is. It also... It also makes no sense to try to relocate an entire working village across town to another area that will be busier, louder, and smack dab in the middle of a residential neighborhood. It isn't fair to the residents nearby, and it isn't fair to the animals kept within the museum confines either. Plus, if you don't remediate the site properly, you could end up killing the animals that graze on that land. We don't need Westwood developed. Remediating the site enough to take it back to a working golf course open to the public would be a much cheaper and a sound investment. As our town supervisor and members of our town board, I believe an integral part of your positions is to listen to your constituents. It seems the entire town is telling you that we don't need or want to develop Westwood, the Boulevard, or any other lengthy, costly projects that serve no direct benefit to us. Going forward, I suggest tabling all discussion on this project and others like it until we can have additional meetings with the actual town residents who are obviously very much involved and awake now. Thank you.
David Borchardt.
Good evening. David Borchardt, 57 Plantation Court. A little different off topic for much of what's talked about tonight, but a little bit on topic also. I've been a season pass holder at the town-operated Audubon Golf Course since 2015. Kudos, salutations, congratulations, I believe are in order for the Recreation Commission, the Golf Advisory Committee, and the Town Board for the commitment made to keeping Audubon as an 18-hole golf course and making some significant capital investment. The golf course is in the best shape I've seen it since I've been playing there and since 2015. It's nice to see that the town is probably making some money on the from golf operations. Despite the fact that it's required to make some capital investment, but operating, it's in great shape, and there's better course conditions, there's customer service, there's support to the golf leagues and to the golf club membership. That's been great. Indigo/Troon is doing a great job. They're making a profit, the town's making a profit, and that justifies the capital investments that the town has made these last couple of years and any future investments that you make in that property. I turn to comments about the North Town Center and the recreational skate schedule. It's been stuck in my craw the last several years. During the winter breaks, the school breaks, Christmas break, the February break, there's no general skates scheduled what I like to take the grandkids ice skating. Well, I got to take them to Tonawanda to skate because there's no general skates. The answer to my request in 2021 was, well, it's too difficult for staffing. Okay, that was post-COVID. Maybe that was really the issue. Today, I stopped in and talked to someone in the arena scheduling department, and I got sort of a halfway, well, maybe we'll think about that for February, but we'd have to staff it because it would be mobbed. Well, of course it would be mobbed because the kids are not in school. So let's do some open skates, just 2 50-minute sessions. He said we have lots of rentals, and I got it was a soft answer for me. We'd have to staff up. Well, sure, staff up. You'll have 300 skaters at $5 a piece. That's $1,500. I'm sure you could afford the staffing for that for those couple of sessions. A little side note, my town tax bill has averaged a 3.6% increase over the last 8 years. If it goes up 11.4% next year, that average is going to go up a lot more. It's significantly higher than the inflation rate. Thank you.
Mark Rivard.
Put that on the overhead.
We can't do
Don't
that.
have an overhead to put it on anymore.
No?
No, we can't do pieces of paper.
Okay, it's been
But
a while
we
since
know
I've
what
been
the
here.
picture looks like.
And I added some sketching here. Okay,
You can give it to me when you're done, so we can have it for the record.
could you make a copy? I want to keep it. Anyway, hi, I'm Mark Rivard, and I live at 132 Fleetwood Terrace, which is obviously right close to Gleason's. I've shopped at Gleason's and found it to be a nice place. I can't believe there's millions of dollars worth of things that need to be remediated over there. I sort of think that just like Westwood, they use that green, contamination, we got to do all this, as an excuse, which seems like, but we can move the thing over there. Anyway, the plan for the planned housing where Gleason's was is obviously, it's not a finished plan, and they wouldn't call it a finished plan. And I'd be shocked and amazed if they finalized it before getting their hands on parcels 1, 2, and 3 that were being talked about, the other part, and making that one big parcel, and then they could do all kinds of things with it. But one thing I have noticed on the town map, if you just go to Google Earth, I was glad to see we had somebody from 50, Jordan here. Well, the house next to him is 44, and the house next to that is 40. In between those two properties is the right-of-way to those parcels that the developer is talking about. I'm sure they're going to hang on and try to get all those parcels before they break ground on all this stuff. And Jordan, right between 40 and 44 Jordan, where there's already a right-of-way. I've walked by there a million times and looked to see, where is this right-of-way? You really can't see it. So I think a couple of homeowners would be really shocked if all of a sudden there's a driveway there that didn't used to be there. But it's shown as a legal right-of-way, so I've got to believe it's there. The other thing I noticed on this map, that whole row of two-family houses is quite close to the back property adjoining the Fleetwood people. Now, I know the people on Fleetwood, from their house to their back fence is 50, 60, maybe even 70 feet. And on this drawing, although it's not a scale on it you could see, but I'm guessing it's like 20 feet maybe from the back of all those duplexes to the fence line. Could be off a little, but they're those 2-story plus a peak, so let's call them 2.5-story homes. And on Fleetwood, you've got ranch homes with usually a 412 very low roof line, so it's really going to change and dominate for those people. It's awful close to their fence, and properties
on Fleetwood, in case some of you, I know people are here, that development goes from Sheridan Drive to 23, 31, 41, 90, all the way up to 81 Fleetwood. So if your number is 81 or lower, you would have this thing right in your backyard. And I don't know, I don't think people get that when they look at a blueprint. What I wanted to show, the little curvy road outlet onto Jordan with my laser pointer, I can't do that now because you don't have that. I can't believe we got rid of that technology. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, so we can't open it up because it throws.
What is that white thing with the, looks like a camera looking down at his?
We switched our streaming method, which is what prohibits us from using that.
I see.
Because there were issues with the way we streamed the board meetings.
Okay. At any rate, those are my concerns. I think it's amazing that this property and Westwood both fell back on that, oh, brownfield. You know, I never bought that with Westwood, and I'm not buying it here. You know, did poor Mr. Gleason drop one can of something on the ground? You know, get a shovel and fix it, you know. Anyway, thank you very much.
I was just told, and so this is for the future, if you have something you want projected, send it to the clerk's office ahead of time, and then they can load it so it can be shown.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, Tom Weisbeck.
I didn't either. I think he must have been there from the beginning. I don't know. Just
miss it.
Tom Weisbeck, 48 Drawbridge Court. Hi, Debbie. Congratulations
Thank you.
to retirement. It's great. You're retiring? Or?
Taking a break.
Oh,
Taking
I'm
a
sorry.
break.
I'm talking about Debbie. I appreciate it.
Taking a break.
Debbie and I worked on campaigns together. I helped her get elected years ago. I'm here about the cost of the street lightings. What's the overall cost for, you took out a bond, right? What's the total cost? It's going to cost us.
$33 million.
I know 33 million, but you set out with a bond to pay for it. So
Plus
how much is that going to cost totally? Was that 15 years?
We had a number of public hearings about the street lighting project over the last 4 years.
I've been there. I'm talking to the supervisor. Let Brian, please.
Info in front of us.
Well, I'm asking the supervisor.
I don't have the information in front of me.
You're the chief financial officer, right here? Is that correct?
I understand. So, yes, we have an interest rate on the bond, and obviously, when we went through our pro formas from multiple contractors, we looked at the bond interest versus the savings. The long-term savings creates an offset, but it's
Okay,
not
so-
an offset in year one.
Okay, so what's the difference of customer-owned street lighting, the cost, versus the Niagara Mohawk doing business as National Grid? What's the difference there?
It has to do with the tariff, the
Yes.
maintenance on the street light, and the replacement of the head itself creates an energy savings. But
I asked you, what's the savings between the two?
I don't know offhand. I don't have all the numbers in front of me.
Okay, well, I'll
it's
be back
pretty
the next
it's-
time.
it's
I'm going to ask the same question.
Fine.
The public should know. You spent how much money to buy this?
It's
And you did this
on the
part of
website as part of
COVID,
the record.
during COVID, to make that
No,
decision.
we started on, I have been taking the lead on the project. We started on it way before COVID.
Way before
In
COVID.
2018.
Way before COVID.
This,
I got involved before COVID.
I'm telling you, we started working on this project in 2018.
Okay.
This is not new.
So did you get any money from the Power Authority?
We're,
to work on this?
There is a grant from Power Authority,
How much was that?
500,000.
$100,000? Okay. So that was taxpayers' money too, then? Power Authority is the taxpayers.
Okay, I'm not,
I'm just,
I don't have the contract in front of me, I'm not gonna debate.
Make sure the public knows about it, Brian, because you're the town supervisor, chief financial officer.
Got it, Tom.
Eventually, you're gonna wanna run for something else.
I didn't say that.
Well, I know how politicians are. So this will be labeled on you, how you spend the money in the town of Amherst. If you're throwing away, all these people are here, they're all mad at you. Because what you're doing with the taxes. All you guys. You'll be labeled tax and spend. That's all it is. I'll be back next month asking the same question. Thank you.
All right, Wendy Smiley? Wendy?
Wendy Smiley, 92 Fleetwood Terrace. I came to Western New York in the 70s. At that time, Love Canal was a big thing. They didn't know about digging up tanks full of chemicals in those days, but it ended up ruining people's lives. I remember driving around there seeing the fence, and there were people living on one side and people not living on the other side. So here I am. I'm an old woman. I have emphysema. I don't want to live with those chemicals in the air for the next 10 years. And then I don't want to pay for my death like that. That's something that can kill me, those chemicals. So I don't really care about the traffic on Sheridan. That doesn't bother me. But it does bother me that those chemicals are going to be in the air and in the water, and that the animals that we love, my wife and I, they used to come from one area and go through the yards and go into Gleason's. They're all going to die from that. It's going to change the whole fauna in the area. So that's really all I have to say. It's a shame to kill your residents.
Okay, Bev, okay.
Bev Cuviello, 91 Fleetwood Terrace. I believe that everyone here has pretty much brought up a lot of things. I am absolutely appalled that none of you have brought up the fact that this Gleason's development creates much more of a problem than the T and where somebody's going to turn around. That's a problem, yes. Not as big as a problem as all of the contaminants that are going to be in the air for months and months and years that we're going to breathe every summer as we're out going for a walk, as we all do in our neighborhood. Of all the animals that are going to be disturbed everywhere, where are they going to go? On the road, like they are in the morning when I go to work, I see a deer here, I got to watch there, watch there. The only place for these animals to go is on the road. But the biggest factor that I don't hear enough about is the fact that that proposal is approximately 30 feet from the fence of these people on Fleetwood. What happens at that point is you've got a home 30 feet from a fence. Now you put on a 15-foot patio. A new build has to be at a minimum of 3 feet above grade. All of our houses in this area are at grade. That means 3 feet above the lowest portion of our house. That means all of that water from that 15-foot patio is going to go right down into somebody else's backyard. One of these ladies, it's going to go right into her in-ground pool, if not a number of other people. Then the developer says, well, you know, we have to put a fence and we have to put trees. Okay, let's do the math. Here's the fence. We need a minimum of 3 feet, maybe 4 feet to put some trees. Now we got 15 feet minus 4 feet. Now we're down to 9 feet. Oh, well, we'll put a swell in there, a 9-foot swell. So you want in your backyard, here's your patio, and you're gonna have a swell like this. And where is that swell gonna go? It's gonna go into our yards. It's gonna go into our water system. We've had 3 water main breaks on our street on Fleetwood within the past 2 years. Our water lines need to be replaced. Our sewer lines, periodically you walk down Fleetwood and there's a sinkhole. Our sewer lines need to be replaced. I'm not an idiot. These people are not idiots. They're going to tie into our sewer systems. They're going to tie into our water systems. Our water systems and sewer systems have been there for 75 years. They are taxed. They are beat. They need to be replaced. And now we have another 22 houses that are going to be in the same sewer system, the same water system. We can't do it. Fix our infrastructure first. Think about our infrastructure. We're paying taxes for the infrastructure, and now you want us to pay taxes for something else that's going to come in and destroy our property more and more and more. We love our neighborhood. You can hear that from these people. We walk our neighborhood. It's a peaceful neighborhood. It's got trees. It's beautiful. People walk all the time. I've lived in other neighborhoods. I've never lived in a neighborhood which so neighborly, had so many people that walked all the time, said hello to everybody all the time. We can't have our neighborhoods destroyed because somebody wants to make some money. It's not okay. Gleason's... Gleason's was a nursery. Nurseries use chemicals that are concentrated. They had tanks for those chemicals. I know people that grew up on Sheridan Drive when you could play baseball on Sheridan Drive. And they're telling us, oh yes, all of those chemicals, they can't just put it in a can and spray your tree. They have to have tanks to support those chemicals. The chemicals back from the 50s, the chemicals that are dangerous that we don't even allow anymore. Talk about the DDT and everything else that's in that ground. Now we're going to dig it up. We also heard this developer say he was going to try and go with the least amount of dollared remediation, whichever company came in the lowest. Well, guess what? Gleason's nursery is much more contaminated than Westwood ever thought about. Westwood was a general spray with chemicals. Gleason's is concentrated. There might be certain spots that didn't get in respect to the one man that says that this one house doesn't have that. But as a nursery, they had to have chemicals day and night, every day, 365. They always did. There's plenty of chemicals there, and we are going to live and breathe those chemicals for 10 years. And as we get sick, the lawsuits are going to come back to you guys, and that's what's going to happen.
Kathy Ice. Kathy? Did you call me, Frank? No, Dennis.
Hi, my name is Kathy Ice. I've lived on Jordan Road, 130 Jordan Road, for since 1980. And my husband and I are both senior citizens. We both still work full-time. And I didn't really know anything about this happening until about 4 or 5 days ago. And I came to the meeting because I didn't want to see this happen without, there being comment on it. There needs to be a better notification in the community about a project like this that is going to be affecting the environment. And you have a lot of elderly that live in that neighborhood. You have a lot of a few younger families too. People need to know what's happening, and it's not being communicated to the people who are who will be affected. I used to work in a nursery 50 years ago when I was in high school, and I know the type of chemicals we used. We used DDT. We used a lot of stuff that you can't even use or buy anymore. I think this is, number one, I don't know how many of you have tried to make a left turn out of those streets there. It's really, really difficult a lot of the time, and we're going to add more homes. But I think the bigger issue is really, if it isn't, this is even more involved than Westwood. We're talking about a much higher concentration of chemicals than Westwood, and we're worried about Westwood. People need to be told, and you need to be responsive to people's concerns. It's opening a Pandora's box, and thank you. And you need to let people know, and it can't be just it's past. People need to be told. Thank you.
Judy Ferraro.
Judy Ferraro, 213 Donnelly Boulevard. It is curious that Mr. Lavin, after being on this board since January 2018, is now concerned about budget transparency. Truth of the matter is that none of you, save one, campaigned on it, but once elected, acted against that concept and used our money to do so. If the Westwood Task Force and the neighborhood listening sessions have taught us anything, it is that it is contrived and meaningless, except to advance your agenda. Spare us another of your committees that functions only to pretend you care. Meanwhile, continuing to sanction and promote expensive, inappropriate development in neighborhoods. Your outlandish manipulation of PUD on Westwood is a shining example of fast-tracking another half-baked attempt to transform Westwood into something the people who understand your perverse definition of park do not want nor want to fund. Your unrestrained, undisciplined spending is exposing just how out of touch you are and have been with ordinary people. Transparency? How about starting with all the new hires? What are their jobs, and what are the taxpayers paying them? Hopefully, they are not coming from our supervisor's side hustle, or is being the supervisor the side hustle? It is difficult to determine these days. If that is the case, it is a flagrant conflict of interest and needs to end now. We are not seeing cuts in your bloated budget. Mandatory spending is a given that all municipalities face and plan for. It is your discretionary spending that is crushing the average taxpayers. Please don't conflate to justify incrementally destroying our green, beautiful Amherst suburb and its fragile ecosystem. Transparency, honesty, and accountability are desperately needed because, my friends, you have lost credibility and trust. That is what comes of ignoring the people you were elected to serve and spending your time and our money behind closed doors plotting to undermine them. Your gaslighting only serves to confirm that you are living in a bubble, wallowing in arrogance, ignorance, and narcissism. By the way, your public comments are not only disingenuous, but embarrassingly immature. Thank you.
Dennis, you're going to miss your chance. All right, the list is expired, so if you haven't been on the list and you wish to speak, please come up, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Georgine Tripodi, 199 Burbank Drive. Last week I contacted someone in Mr. Culpa's office and I asked for a cost-benefit analysis of this LED project. He then said that somebody from your office, Ms. Berger, would get back to me. This week, excuse me.
Can I just finish? I need to respond. The message I asked to give you was I needed to wait till this week because I had to get current information because my mother has COVID and I am her caretaker. So I think you can be a little patient and we can have that conversation.
And that's fine, and I apologize. But why isn't that information already online?
It was. It is no longer exactly the same as what was presented because COVID occurred. So I wanted to get the correct information to share with you.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the cost of the LED project. From what I understand, it's going to be $33 million to do this project. Lucy stated on TV, KBW, that we're paying millions to National Grid per year. How many millions are we paying to National Grid per year? 1, 2, 3? 3.2. 3.2. Okay. Thank you. He also states that the project would save us hundreds of $1,000s a year. Hundreds of thousands. Let's say at the top end, $900,000 it saves us a year. That means that this project will take 35 years to reap the benefits of. 35 years. You are not good stewards of our money. You are not. Are you making regular decisions like this? Because this is financially inept. It's terrible.
The project payback's not 33 years.
It was 12 years prior to COVID, I believe, because costs went up related during the COVID period. It will be a little bit more.
Okay.
Not significantly more, and I wanted to get accurate numbers for you.
I will wait, and I will look at your information. But I want you to know something. I am not against LED lights. Every time in my house a light bulb goes out, I replace it with LED because that's being cost effective. Tearing things down that are perfectly fine is not cost effective.
We haven't been given an option by National Grid to replace lights with LEDs.
Maybe you should go someplace else.
Actually,
we
we
don't
did.
have-
Wait a minute. They wanted us to pay $20 million for the lights they were going to take down and not give us any savings. I had the proposal. That was not presented to the public. That was a proposal that we received from National Grid.
And they are the only ones who can do this.
That's not who we're working with.
Okay, just to understand the project, because this is going back a number of years.
6 years.
The National Grid company owned all of the light fixtures and the poles. They controlled and set a tariff for maintenance unilaterally, and they controlled what the light fixtures were. So basically how much utility cost the town had. So when the town was presented with proposals and went through a cost-benefit analysis, we looked at the longevity of the lights currently versus the proposed switch to LED. In order to switch to LED at the time, we had to own the lights. Many municipalities have done this. They don't have 9,500 lights, but a lot of municipalities have gone through this conversion project.
Did they do it in 1 year? Did they do it in 2 years? Or did they do it in 10 years?
You have to do it in 1 year.
Why?
Because you have to purchase all of the lights. Grid won't let you replace their lights if they own them at the time, right? They wouldn't let you replace the lights. So the issue became, if you purchase the lights, you have to do it all in one shot. That's what the Power Authority, that's what UBRI, that's what every other community's doing. That's what right now the city of Buffalo is considering. The problem is the year one, right? You don't see the savings that you do in years 2, 3, 4, 5, because you're not all the way through the conversion. So we're in that spot where we had to issue a very large bond last year. And moving forward, we're going to start seeing savings annually. However, we still have to deal with this year, right? And so that's where the town moved forward. And again, we're not the only community to do this. However, we're the largest to date to do it. So it's this big giant hit, and that's what we're dealing with a lot of consequences from. Doesn't mean that it locks us in forever in terms of where, rates are and what we're doing, because the expectation is that there is savings, and there should be considerable savings. We're not seeing it yet in this projected budget.
And this bond, so it has nothing to do with our 11.4?
It does.
Okay.
Because it increased the debt load, and you have to pay for your debt, right? We have to start making payments against it. The problem is you're making payments ahead of savings. So yes, eventually this thing saves money. And yeah, there's very much a long-term ramification. There was years ago, the Village of Williamsville undertook a water consolidation to Erie County water system. It cost money. You had to bond up front in order to do capital projects to later create savings down the road. This isn't, a short-term thing, but the cost of energy and the cost of service on those sodium bulbs wasn't going down. So there is a savings. It was a big project. In fact, it was the biggest project the town's taken on since the sewer treatment plant or Northtown Center. The reality is we're at that point right now where we've got to cope with that project, and then next year we'll see where we get. Thank you.
No, it's not the time to do it.
Hello, Adam Netherow, 166, or speaking on 166 Klein. I'm a homeowner at 29 Kingsway.
And your name?
Adam Netherow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Why are we considering adding a negative asset? That is what this request is at its core, a request for the town and taxpayer to take on a negative asset to ease the financial burden of these developers. Why are we as taxpayers taking all the risk and the burden? This plan is undeniably a negative asset. They will be condos paying less in taxes than you or I or any other resident, yet having the same cost to the system, while their company is not being responsible for its own maintenance. That's what they want. It is honestly insulting that this is even a discussion. I've yet to hear how this would benefit the town or the taxpayers. I've heard plenty of why the developer wants it, but not why the town would want it and why we would want to take on their maintenance for them. The town has never promised them anything, only that a decision would be made later. Telling them no is that decision. It would fall in line with what they were told. They aren't owed being grandfathered. Grandfathering would be worse for the taxpayer. Why are we even considering it? I know that they're not obligated, that the town and taxpayers aren't obligated to give them anything because the developers would have gleefully said so. That's how they have operated this entire time. Every time they have an opportunity to bully the board, they do. So the fact that they haven't says that they're not expecting this, but they're hoping. Their argument that in the end, if there's a huge problem, that the town would have to clean it up anyways is laughable. Just because in their future scenario, their failures and the massive problem falls on the town doesn't absolve them of their own responsibility to maintain their own project. The developer is responsible to manage their own problems first. That is standard. That's called being an adult. Why should the town and taxpayer take all the risks of maintaining a system that we didn't build and aren't responsible for? Why should the town and taxpayer take the risk for a private company? This would solely benefit that private company and will only add to the financial loss and risk of the taxpayers' money. Why should we taxpayers publicly subsidize private profits? We as taxpayers see no benefit. Why should we be taking this risk? If the end result is the same, according to their own admission, where if it fails, that we're going to have to get it and cleaned up anyways, why should we take that risk? If it's going to get to that anyways, in the interim, have them pay their own way. Since I moved in about 4 years ago, the water main break has happened 3 times. 3 separate times, I've had to go to Walmart and buy bottled water so I can make my babies bottles. So they're wanting to put in a water system, not pay for the maintenance of a failing, decrepit system, and that's what you want us taxpayers to smile and gleefully accept?
So this board agrees with your position that we shouldn't be paying for these systems. The challenge with this respective system is that in the past, the town has a policy where we have accepted the turnover. So we're stuck, right? We've got this project that wasn't before the town board for rezoning. So it was approved through the town process, and we're stuck under our own measures, that have been in place for a long time to deal with the system. The town board has an interest in adopting a local law or passing a resolution to change the direction. I don't know that gets us around the legal obligation here. And that causes the dilemma, right? Because this is going to, the system here was proposed and applied for prior to town board action. If we change our policy or we change our procedures, that doesn't mean that we can do it retroactively. So I'm not sure that this is going to allow this one to happen.
Well,
Can you also address the water? It's the water authority when he has to go buy water?
So
That's not us.
I'll tell my child that when we don't have water for his bottle. I'm sure it'll comfort him.
The question's not is that, so again, the question for us legally is the application ahead of the town changing the policy? And that's what we're dealing with. And frankly, it becomes an attorney's issue.
But the fact is, they've had to redo their proposal how many times? And they're currently going to be asking for an extension that also you don't have to approve. So all you have to do is not give them their approval. They start the process over. You do your job, fix the loophole, and then this is solved.
We are moving forward with the latter, but the issue of this specific system is going to be a problem, and that's something that we're trying to deal with as a board. I know that you can try to think of it as, well, change the law now, and then this system will have to come into compliance. The reality is, if there's a standing application, then that organization has standing prior to a town procedural change.
Again, an application that has a drop dead date in a couple weeks that they will request an extension on. Deny their extension, they start the process over. Then they don't have anything retroactive because they're starting fresh. Again,
I'm not sure that attorneys see it that way, but I just wanted to tell you.
I'm giving you an easy answer.
With your okay.
I get your viewpoint. I truly do. Understand mine, that for you, this is just some random guy up here complaining. For me, this is my home. This is my family. These are my children. Do whatever you need to do to stop these people.
Okay.
Because while you get to walk away, I don't. Thank you.
Understood.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Snyder-Haas, and I live at 185 Fairways Boulevard. It was just 2 short weeks ago that I came before you and gave you numerous reasons why the proposed planned unit development for the so-called Amherst Central Park should not be approved. Numerous residents also spoke out against it, giving thoughtful, detailed feedback, including the inappropriateness of the theater and Buffalo Niagara Heritage Village for the site, that the project was too development-heavy and automobile-focused, and that the proposed pedestrian entrance on Frankhauser was dangerous. Some of you appeared to be taking notes in response to the comments, much like you are now. Yet what happened? 2 short weeks later, a week before Christmas, you put the application back on the agenda with no changes to the concept plan. You accused the residents who spoke out about engaging in political theater. I was here. The comments about the project were excellent and valid. Yet again, as you have over the last 6 years, you continue to ignore what the residents want and seek to push this ill-advised plan through without considering the consequences. This continues a pattern that I spoke about at the last meeting with the so-called Amherst Central Park Task Force, which hasn't even met in about 2 years. There was no collaboration. We were just told what was going to happen, and our input was completely ignored, much like it's being ignored right now. So who exactly came up with this concept plan? The town has spent, maybe the right word is wasted, huge sums of money on outside architectural firm Dover Cole, which is based in Florida. They came up with numerous drawings over the years, none of which resembles what we have now. And when asked about the concept plan recently by a resident, they said they could not comment because the town had made extensive changes to what they had prepared. Who is the town? In Supervisor Culpa's Amherst, it is not the residents. The presenter for the planned unit development works for the same architectural firm that Mr. Culpa does. And since Mr. Culpa works for the firm that has done drawings and is presenting the project, should he even be participating in the voting? Conflict of interest, anyone?
There's nobody. I'm not gonna accept that. The drawings were done by a town employee. That person does not work for an architectural firm. So there is, you know, I'm willing to listen to you say that you feel that residents have been ignored. I disagree. We've done tremendous amount of effort with residents. But I'm not going to sit and accept that you are going to say that in any way, shape, or form did a firm that I have association with perform work on this project. That's utterly incorrect.
Okay, so why didn't you go with what Dover Cole? You paid them a fortune.
We did. A lot of what we have is what Dover Cole did.
So why change any of it?
The only thing that's changed is because of conversations with New York State DOT or our current engineers' understanding of topography or items that, frankly, Dover Cole didn't have as terms of a detailed survey, right? We've done more detail work and more survey work. Dover Cole hasn't seen those since they finished the plan. They are the ones who laid out B&HV. They're the ones who laid out the locations of all the items that you see within that park.
Okay, just they've been working on it for years. It's just strange at the very end, they're out of the loop there. But as far as being attentive to the residents, take a look at the concept plan. How are an indoor theater, a relocated museum with a new 30,000 square foot indoor building, and a traffic circle in the middle of the parcel serving resident desires for a central park? There's been no effort at a connecting trail network, no athletic fields. This can't even be called a park. It is a developer's wish list of projects to build at our expense, both in loss of green space and tax dollars. And with the road, it is a mere setup for additional development on Westwood. Consider the supplemental finding statement that the board added to the plan. It defines a minor improvement as any structure under 4,000 square feet and indicates that the town will be able to approve a minor improvement without any future public input. What does this tell you? This is a blueprint, literally, for the developers to feast without having to go through any public process. So the only response that you've had to the public's comments 2 weeks ago is to make it even harder for the public to make comments. The only thing transparent about this process is the lack of transparency. And should we trust the town to make planning decisions for the benefit of the residents? Let's review. Supervisor Kalpa spent years spending, or maybe the right word again is wasting money, on land appraisals in an effort to obtain Westwood via a land swap. Instead, they paid developers $7 million of taxpayer money outright to get the property, when it was purchased for less than $3 million at a time when it was a functioning golf course and not a brownfield. Developer bailout, anyone? And they were so intent on having UBMD built on recreational land that they did not consider the loss of girls' softball fields, forcing them to spend, or again, maybe the right word is waste, more money to rebuild them on land they are paying to lease, no less. And then you wonder why the interest on our debt is a prime driver for the 11% tax increase. This is absolute mismanagement of town funds to service developers. And it's only going to get worse if this project proceeds. Who's going to pay the upwards of $7 million to move Buffalo Niagara Heritage Village? Mind you, this is already a money-losing venture. Do you really think that moving it a few miles is going to turn it into a money generator? So much so that it's going to pay off the huge moving expense and generate revenue on top of that? I don't think so. The developers are really the ones driving this. Can any of the board members state tonight that this is not what would happen, that really you just want to sell the land the village is currently on? Is that something you're thinking about as part of this? Yeah. And where has growth of the tax base gotten us? Amherst has had substantial development over the years, more than most surrounding municipalities. Yet they are not raising taxes by anything near 11%, and ours have not dropped any over the years, but been similar to the others. If development is building the tax base so much, why is the tax rate not only rising, but rising so much? Shouldn't we be getting tax breaks by now with all the development that's happened in Amherst? It's all a big lie. Why are the other municipalities able to stay below the tax cap? We are all facing the same inflationary pressures. I don't think hiring 17 police officers is the reason. It is all the money the town has been borrowing at high interest rates to fund development projects and blatantly wants to continue to do. All the problems outlined at the last meeting still remain. The town is illegally using the PUD process to rezone the parcel. It would not have to do this if the land were to be developed according to its existing recreation conservation zoning, which one would think it would be doing in creating a park. In any event, the PUD application is illegal on its face because it contains an illegal rezoning, because the town apparently does not want to take the time to follow the separate rezoning process it would need to do this legally. The alternative sites analysis, or more accurately, lack thereof, falls legally short of SEQRA requirements. There is no discussion of alternative sites at all, when others clearly exist for the construction of an indoor theater and the museum, which do not even belong in a recreation conservation zoning district. Years have been spent analyzing the Audubon parcel as part of the park, but this is not even mentioned in the PUD. Why can't the theater go on land that was already alienated and more suitable for that use? Maple Road is not nearly as heavily trafficked as Sheridan Drive, is closer to UB, has ample space for parking, and is not surrounded by residential homes. Buffalo Niagara Heritage Village currently sits next to other town-owned land, and yet its expansion in its current location was not even considered. Ironically, what the PUD devotes much time and effort to is an illegal process to control future development of the property, which is wholly inappropriate for a PUD. Why is there the lack of consideration of other sites and the focus on uses not consistent with the zoning? Because it seems that this board is determined to get their vision realized. Supervisor Culpa said in a recent article that he is as happy as he can be about the current state of Amherst. That's an odd thing to say after having passed an 11% tax increase and to have residents file into this chamber to complain that they do not want what is happening. Isn't it the residents' vision that should matter? I asked this town board not to rush this application through. We could still have a project that is worthy of a central park that is cost-effective. We can do the cost-benefit analysis that has been neglected. We could sell, at fair market value, some of the land that has already been alienated on Audubon and use it and the tax revenue it would generate for the park and seek grants on a project-by-project basis. We already have some grant money for the ice ribbon and the splash pad. We can focus on giving residents what they asked for: connecting trails, a 2-mile walking jogging loop that will not have vehicles going around it, pickleball, cricket, and other athletic fields, and natural spaces to enjoy, with some limited development to support this. Years ago, Supervisor Culpa had a good idea to partner with Forest Lawn to maintain some of the parkland. This can still be done without sacrificing the 18-hole public golf course, which was the basis of the opposition at the time. This is all the common sense approach. So I ask that we all take a step back before we find ourselves in even greater debt for things residents do not want. If after hearing everything you did at the last meeting and then proceeding to pass this without addressing the residents' concerns, you are proving what we are saying, that this is a deeply illegally flawed review that lacks transparency, and you are not acting in or the environment's best interests. It's the developer's interests. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Brian? Good evening. Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive, Waynesville, New York. I made up these nifty signs for you tonight. No more, 11.4. If you want one of these, let me know. I just have a few questions for the board, if that's cool. I was wondering, Deborah Buckeye, is that how you pronounce her name? Yes. Buckeye? Okay, I have a question for you. How do you, last time I was here, I spoke, if you remember, about term limits. You might remember. How do you feel about term limits for the town of Amherst? Would you like to abolish those, or how do you feel about that? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I didn't even start to speak yet.
Oh, you said or something.
I said Give me a chance. This is my last meeting for today, so I'm not going to be on the board to
Why is that?
render any.
Why is this your last meeting?
Because back in about 2006, 2007, and I was on the board at that time, and I supported it.
Are you termed out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So
All right, thank you. My time is limited.
Well-
You agree with it, you're termed out and you're leaving. Thank you, that's very commendable. Jacqueline Berger, how do you feel about term limits?
This is not
A simple question.
I am not answering
that.
the question. You're out of order.
There is no out of order. You're kidding me, I'm out of order? Am I out of order, Brian Culpa?
Dennis, I think that you need to you
All right,
can
thank
pose
you. My
questions.
time's limited, thank you. Thank you. I'll ask
by
Sean Lavin, would you like to,
interaction-
Sean Lavin, would you like to answer that question, please?
Dennis.
Sean, you look like you're half asleep up there.
Dennis.
Would you like to answer that question, Sean Lavin?
Dennis, you have limited time. You should get to your point.
Just yes or no. Would you like to abolish the term limits in the town of Amherst? Pretty simple question. Pretty important question. Does everybody here think that's an important question? Would you like to answer that, Sean Lavin?
Answer the question, Sean.
Yes or no?
Dennis, finish your point. Mr. Transparency, answer. Answer the question, Sean.
I'll take your silence as you're in favor of you're not in favor of term limits. I'll take your silence as being you're saying no comment basically. So you're in favor of abolishing term limits. Was that the message I'm getting? Is that what we're getting here? Thank you. Michael, I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Michael Zuccalla.
First time I've heard you speak tonight. Thank God. Go for it.
Yes, I am in favor of term limits.
Okay, thank you.
And hold on, let me finish.
I don't have a lot of time here.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Jacqueline, okay, you see you are not in favor of term limits apparently. I'll take that as your answer. Okay, I just have some other questions. People on the board, just wondering if you have a regular full-time job other than being on this council. Michael? Yes, I do. What do you do for a living?
I work for Erie County.
You work for Erie County?
It's not a secret.
Full-time, what do you do for Erie County?
I'm the Medicaid Inspector General for this part of New York State.
Okay, that's a 40-hour a week job?
Very much so, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sean Lavin, can you answer a question for me? Do you have a full-time job? Sean?
Do you have any comments on the matters we discussed tonight?
This isn't very important. I'm not talking to you, sir.
Enough.
Sean, do you have a full-time job, Sean? Will you answer the question, yes or no?
Dennis, thank you. Please have a seat.
I just want to talk. I just want to get him to answer the question.
Dennis, have a seat.
Brian, do you have a full-time job?
No.
Well,
I'm a full-time supervisor in town of Amherst.
Do you work for an architectural firm?
I own part of an architectural firm.
Oh, does Benderson hire your architectural firm?
No.
Oh, they don't?
None.
Really? No developers hire, none of the developers that work in the town of Amherst? That is a conflict of interest, sir. That is a conflict of interest.
Dennis, have a seat.
Thank you. Thank you for being honest with us, Sean Lavin.
There's no conflict. I want to be clear before the next speaker gets up. I own part of an architectural firm. I'm allowed to speak.
So am I.
You did.
Read the Constitution, Brian.
You did, Dennis. Now it's my turn. I own part of an architectural firm. I have no clients who have any work inside the town of Amherst by choice.
About a month ago, didn't you?
We did, about the mall.
You flew down to
No, and not a month ago.
When? So talk to Benderson. When did
I
you
talked to
find out?
Benderson last year about this.
No, more recently than that, you went down.
It wasn't.
Did you pay for the trip?
I went down on private business. I did not see Benderson when I was in Florida. That is, thank you.
You're not trustworthy, sir.
Okay. You're making accusations and you're completely falsified information. Neither are you. You come in here acting like a bully. Please go ahead, sir.
Remember the Gong Show? I missed that.
Yes, so do I.
Your name and address.
Just
please.
23 Reinwald.
What street?
23 Reinwald in the village. Okay.
Thank you.
So, just for the record, I'm not BFF with anybody here, developers, politicians. I just came here tonight because I really didn't have anything else to do. But I did want to show a little bit of transparency and objectivity. As far as the brownfield thing, I don't think anybody here is really qualified to talk about brownfield stuff unless you're really an expert on it. I know I'm not. But I just want to remind people, Four Winds Nursery on Main Street on the border of Snyder and Edwardsville, that was turned into an exclusive home development probably like 20, going on 25 years ago now. And I haven't heard anything negative about that. And the old Lambert Trees Nursery on the corner of Cayuga and Worley, where the Tim Hortons is and there's off-track betting, I'm sure everybody here has been there to have a cup of coffee. No issues with that.
Move away from the mic a little.
I'm
to
too
the
close.
mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there are other examples around town about the brownfields and development and stuff. The other thing I wanted to comment about, and I didn't realize that this was Councilwoman Buckeye's last meeting. However, I want to bring up William Huntress and Aquis Development because back in 2006, when Councilwoman Buckeye was on the board, and I think Shelley Schratz was on the board. I didn't hear what she said. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you voted against the project, as did, I believe, Dan Ward. I'm not sure about Shelley Schratz. And that cost the taxpayers about $4 million. And William Huntress laughed all the way to the bank. So I'm not a pro-developer or whatever, but, there's certain procedures that have to be followed. So all these people that are coming here and saying, don't do this and don't do that, I mean, we have to trust our leaders that they're going to make the right decisions. But obviously, that was a bad decision. And somehow you got reelected. So apparently, elections don't have consequences. I knew she was going to come up
You
here.
gotta let him go, and there's a line of people behind him.
You're talking about a litigation matter. You're talking about a litigation matter that was very complex.
Right, but were you for or against that project?
We voted against it.
We got sued.
Okay.
There was no transparency when the board never put it in the records.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that those board members cost us to the tune of $4 million. So these people that are arguing about 11.2 or 4% price increase, or,
It was nothing to do with what we did. It was they were things that happened prior to us, but I'm not going to say any more. It was litigation matter and it was handled in court.
well, I mean, nobody ever brought that up to you, so it's your last meeting, so I thought it was appropriate to bring that up. So, and the other thing, one more thing I want to say as far as infrastructure, every quarter that I open up my water bill, I think of Supervisor Culpa, but it is what it is. I live in the village and, we have to pay things like that and you just have to kind of suck it up. So I don't think there's a real issue with that. And I want to say one more thing, and again, I'm not pro-board or whatever, but I thought Supervisor's analogy or whatever about a credit card bill was kind of spot on, that everybody can relate to. Some months you spend more than you thought you were or you needed to, and then other months you look forward to a credit. So we just have to trust that everybody's going to do the right thing.
Okay.
What was his name? I don't know. I was to see if Brian knows.
James Gramke, 143 Ruskin Road, registered Republican. So I'm talking tonight, there's some items coming up later before the board, and I just wanted to comment on them. First off, Social Security
is going up 3.2% for seniors. Their Medicare is going up 16%, and their town taxes are going up 11.4%. In addition to that, before the board tonight, they have additional Christmas presents for the seniors. They are proposing a 67% increase in the mailing of the senior letters, the senior newsletter that goes out. They want to increase the annual fee by 67% from $6 to $10. So in addition to the taxes, they want the seniors to pay more. Also, the membership fees for the seniors, they want the single household membership fee to go from $30 to $50, another 67% increase. They also, it's the single membership. The household membership is $50. They want to propose that that goes to $75. That's a 50% increase. So seniors, you got more fun coming. In addition, they're going to increase the non-resident fees for single family or single person from $30 to $50, a 67% increase. But what I don't understand is, why do non-residents of Amherst, people who are fortunate enough not to have to pay the 11.4% tax increase, why do they pay the same single membership fee that residents pay? I think there should be a higher premium for non-residents in that. Okay? So if you're going to increase any fees, why don't you start with the non-residents? Okay? That's my point. And that's coming up for a vote later in the meeting. In addition, there's another proposal, and this is from the police department, and I don't have a problem necessarily with the proposal. It has to do with hallway flooring. However, the contract is going to be with GP Flooring, a company that is headquartered in Gates, New York, which is in Monroe County, and I'm at a loss to understand why there isn't a flooring company in the town of Amherst or somewhere in Erie County that we could use to provide this same flooring. Why are we subsidizing Monroe County? In addition, there is a contract for Delta Sonic to wash police vehicles, and I'm all for that. When I get stopped later tonight by the police for speaking out here, I want them to be doing it in a clean vehicle. But when I look at the contract, there's some confusion because it talks about 25 vehicles for unlimited washes at $15.99, but then it references 54 vehicles at $5 per car wash. So I don't understand why there's two different amounts in there. And then the other question I have is, when it comes to the town budgets, towns in Monroe County have until December 20th to submit their budgets. I don't understand why it's different in Erie County, but it is. But I would propose that maybe in the future, this town looks at maybe amending the state rules so that we have more time to prepare and submit our budgets. Thank you.
Thanks. Just to clarify, that the non-resident cost is annually, the resident fee is for senior center is lifetime.
Yeah, but it's the same as what residents pay.
No. Non-residents pay that same amount annually.
Every year.
Residents pay it once. It's a one-time shot.
Yeah, but
And they pay higher fees for other services.
It's not the way it's spelled out in this contract. So anyway, I think that you need to relook. If you're going to charge anybody, I think you need to start with the non-residents. I mean, if you're going to pick anybody's pocket, let's pick the outsiders, not the people that live here.
Okay. Thank you.
Kathy Aquilina, 215 Maple Road. There's a resolution to request a schedule a public hearing on transparency of the budget. I think there should also be a separate transparent list of bonds for town vision projects, Westwood, Maple Road Ballparks, North Maplemere Extension, the streetlights, the Boulevard Mall, etc. And it should show what it's for, dollar amount, interest percentage, and repayment time frame. Now that would be transparency, because we are paying a lot of money for these bonds, and unless you're reading the agenda, which nobody cares to read, you don't know what bonds are going out there. Thank you.
Joe Wojtowicz, 35 B. Cyrus. I got some comment here on the media announcement last Thursday that Amherst was awarded $31 million for the Boulevard Mall. There wasn't much posted beyond that point, but everybody had the vision that it was going to be used to build up the area around there. I noticed on this night's agenda that they have approval of that grant. It's got nothing to do with building above ground. It's all on sewer system. Now, one edge will touch the Boulevard Mall, and then it goes north to Ridgely, and there's about another mile on Sweet Home Road. And part of the bond also requires Amherst to kick in another $11 million. So now we've got $42 million being spent for what I gauge at is maybe 2 miles of sewer system. Now, it does include a pumping station, but I find it really hard to believe that $42 million is all going to go in that sewer system and it's going to be the best grade around. I took a look at some of the other sewer systems that are going to be worked on in the area, and they all go 1, 2 million, maybe up to 6 million. Some other residents complain here about sewer systems in our neighborhood not being sufficient, and we're spending $42 million just for the mall extra. Another topic I had here also was I know a couple other residents were talking about the LED lighting. Well, when they started putting it on my street, I was curious as to why it costs that much. Tried to find data on the town website, I couldn't find anything. But I did locate a work session of the town board where Wendell, the contractor, was presenting information on this. Fortunately, you couldn't see it on the screen because it was sideways and the numbers were blurred. But he had quite extensive screens showing extensive databases and spreadsheets on that. I was wondering if the town could dig that information up and put it in an area where town residents could get that information, see the numbers for themselves. The information, the questions they had here probably would be answered by just getting that information. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sam Smith. I'm on Fruhoff Avenue. I wanted to try to sum up a little bit of what I've heard tonight. At the last meeting, the old Gleason Nursery was proposed by Severino to be rezoned from R3 to R4 because someone else, basically federal funds, would pay for the remediation of the property. Yet all the proposed structures are within the R3 guidelines, but I'm curious, has a new seeker been performed to evaluate the change from an R3 to an R4?
There is a seeker. We did adopt the findings on the environmental. However, we did not adopt the land use change.
Okay, and that's not, it's not evaluating from an R3 to an R4 in that area?
It's the seeker determination associated with the project proposed, so it is on the rezoning. That evaluation talks about the conditions of the space relative to the rezoning.
With the current proposal, but once it's rezoned to an R4, they can theoretically change the entire proposal, putting more, I'm saying theoretically, they could theoretically change the entire proposal and adding more taxing on the social, traffic, infrastructure, and economical cost?
It would depend on the conditions of the rezoning, but.
Okay. So going back to infrastructure issues, as many people have referred to, for instance, Klein, the existing unaddressed flooding and sewer issues affecting both environmental and ecological issues, that the developers get approved to build these large developments, but the existing infrastructure cannot support the existing residents. So now you're going to overload the system. It's compounding a poorly handled municipal responsibility, which is not being addressed. So then that leads me into how we're going to increase revenue for growth by increasing taxes, and we need more development to increase the growth. Yet everyone keeps talking about how increased development is not we're not seeing the benefits of the increased development increasing our financial growth, yet the taxes are going up. One thing that people didn't really mention is taxes are going up, but on the town website, there's something about properties being reassessed as well, starting in 2024. So you have an 11% tax increase, but then theoretically, your property value is going to start increasing.
Not in this tax year, right?
Not in
So-
this tax year, but soon.
The reality is what you're talking about in terms of property value escalation and trying to balance and trying to assess the commercial valuation versus the residential valuation. Right now, we're at 60% valuation. And so, people say, hey, we're not seeing the benefit from the commercial development. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we're now 7 years since the last reval, right? So we chose not to reval during COVID because the residential market was out of whack. Now that we're post-COVID, but near 60% valuation, we've got to rebalance, because if you want to show increases in your tax levy but still decrease rates on residents or decrease the amount residents are paying, you need to set the fundamentals of the commercial and residential correctly. And right now, everything's skewed. It's 60%, where we haven't done a true valuation since 16 and went into effect 17.
So, residents are concerned that commercial properties are not getting assessed and actually paying their fair share of taxes.
And that's the goal.
And the goal is to correct that deficit and deficiency. But then additionally, with the tax increase and people being concerned that municipal responsibilities are not being addressed with sewer issues, and it's not just one single area. There's literally fecal matter, sewage running down people's streets, and it's universal throughout Amherst. So that's part of why people are upset, is your increase in taxes. Now we're saying we're going to increase the value of your home, so it's going to further increase your tax rate even more. Yes, it might balance out in the future, but at what point do municipal responsibilities get addressed, and where is the plan to fix sewer problems? And instead we keep developing and further hindering existing natural infrastructures, which is, for instance, wetlands.
So this town's, we've spent $1 million a year, almost $2 million some years, on sewer lining and rejuvenating our sewer system. It was something that wasn't happening. We had environmental justice zones 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. When I came into office, environmental justice zone basically means you're backing up sewage in poor people's basements, right? That's the nature of it. And we've been able to eliminate those, and we've been able to do a lot of rebuilding on our sewer. That's not without its cost. People think that any past spending is just related to quote unquote pet projects. The reality is there's been a tremendous amount of investment by this board in infrastructure, including a treatment plant. And the cost of running those things has gone up considerably, and the cost of maintenance has gone up considerably. So we are keeping pace with all those. In fact, we're doing it at a faster pace than a lot of our predecessor boards did. The issue there is that there's costs associated with it.
I think part of what it also goes back to transparency would be what is an outline, what's a plan, streets that get paved. There's something posted about that. Where is the transparency for when is your sewer area going to be addressed? Because right now we don't see the evidence of increased taxes. We don't see the benefits. And what we see is approving of development who aren't getting taxed at the same rate. That's what we are seeing. That's our reality. That's part of why people are upset. So then that leaves me into the PUD, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but that just got approved tonight. That was just voted tonight to be approved. So I do remember back in, I think it was April of this year, it went through the planning board to review, I think it's chapter 203 or rezoning, where basically for the Amherst Central Park, the town board did not want to go through the approval process because of the length of time it took to get approval, and they wanted to skirt basically.
It wasn't related to Central Park itself. It was related to a number of other parks projects where we have, if we try to build a cell tower, if we try to put up lights to replace lights on a ball field, those processes tend to outrun the construction season.
Yeah, so but part of the
we
issue.
did not approve that. We ended up pulling that back.
So part of the issue was the planning board themselves voted 4-3 against it because they said it took away the transparency, the public hearing, and removes the checks and balance system. And now with the PUD, isn't that basically just an alternative way of performing the same thing?
The planning, in this circumstance, the planning board thought that this is the process that we would have avoided, this process with the route we were going. That's true. But the reality is, this is the process that, it's not just this board, but the planning board, the planning department, and everybody kind of affiliated with this project said this is the way to move forward. So this is a result of us saying, okay, we're going to do this through zoning and through our allowed zoning, but that's and this was recommended by the planning board. So I'm comfortable with where we are with this PUD system. This is a complicated project, and unlike many other projects we're ever going to see in the town of Amherst.
So with the PUD, again, the planning board, you guys trust the planning board to make decisions, but the PUD now takes the discretion out of the planning board and puts it solely in
it, right?
the town board.
The PUD essentially locks the plan in place. It doesn't allow for variation after. We're not just doing this because we want to move the project forward. Of course, we want to move the project forward, but we also want to do it in a way that doesn't add, right? You've heard comments, I've heard comments tonight about what's coming next, what additional development's going to be added. And this board's chosen to use the PUD measure to freeze that. When we talk about a 4,000 square foot facility could be built without coming back through that process, the reality is that's a restroom building or a park pavilion. That's not something this board is necessarily considered, and possibly a future board wants. Otherwise, you've got to come back through the site plan, the overall approval and the overall plan again. So in our sense of the world here, we're basically saying this is what our intent is for this park, and this is where we're locking it. Thank you.
Okay. So what is the accountability of, let's say you might have this opinion, but future boards might change their opinion. What is the accountability? What is the recourse? This decision was made today, and it's a final decision.
Again, I think that it'll be up to future boards to decide what they want to do with this. This is the board's intent. We put it out there publicly months ago, and this is what this board feels is appropriate for that park.
Okay. So I guess my frustration is the people have spoken about their frustrations with the park, and yet, for instance, in my area alone, we've had our own frustrations with development, and I've talked about existing issues with a lack of, for instance, a road verge. So literally with a new restaurant opening, and this is before development, there's no division from a sidewalk to the existing parking lot and the street. So my children have to, for instance, walk on the sidewalk where there's no division. But the town can't fix that because it takes a year to evaluate the area because it's part of the whole reimagine of Main Street. So for me as a resident, I'm frustrated from my local perspective, but you guys can decide you want to do something for a park worth millions of dollars, and how much does it cost to get a grass and trees reestablished, for instance, in that area. That's just a tiny part, but what everyone else here keeps saying is municipality responsibilities are not necessarily being transparent, being upheld, but you are unilaterally making a decision. So that's ultimately people's frustration. I love this saying where it says basically, poor planning on your part does not constitute a crisis on mine. And that's really what we are experiencing. We're experiencing crisis from many different levels, from an infrastructure level, from an environmental impact level, and from an economical level. It's just you're hearing people's different anger and voices and how it directly affects them. And like I said, I'm trying to sum up the most that I can of everyone's experiences.
I think the board's heard all of the comments tonight. We've been hearing comments both in this building and outside of this building for years about the park, about other projects, about needs in the community. And, you know, again, I thank you for your comments. I do think that this town board has done a tremendous amount in the community. Whether your community feels that's the case or not, you know, I can point to a number of systemic changes. You know, so I thank you. I understand, you know, you're summing up what you feel is other frustration. All I can say is, you know, we keep working, and this board has been readily available for decades, for years, I shouldn't say decades, for years, via community meetings and community outreach.
So what are people's recourse?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't.
I know.
I understand I didn't get a ring, so I'm still going to continue speaking until I get an initial ring, and then from that ring, then it starts my countdown time. So for the PUD, what are people's recourse?
If people disagree with the PUD, we've asked for comments over the past year with regards to the site plan itself, and the board listen. I mean, you might, okay, people are going to say, oh, the board doesn't listen. The board does listen. All of us read email. All of us find comments. All of us try to find middle ground. There are a lot of opinions over what is a park. There's a lot of opinions over what you should do with a facility. There are a lot of opinions one way, shape, or form, and it's not one opinion that's going to dominate, you know, but it becomes, what do we think satisfies the most advantageous situation for the most people?
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. You're saying people have to talk, but you're missing the point where people have 30 days for Article 78.
Okay.
Is that true?
That it's if people choose to file, then they would be filing that against the EIS. Our town board tonight feels that the EIS is in good standing.
Okay, but that's their only legal recourse besides complaining.
I think that the reality is if you have ideas, come forward.
Hello, Bob Dirtle, 92 Chateau Terrace. In November, I did something after a lot of thought that I swore I would not do, and that was vote for a Republican. I did this because I thought the person I voted for would help to make this board a little more transparent. Well, that's something that's sorely needed. This is a Democratic town, and the elected Democrats need to work for the people. In today's atmosphere, people are voting without proper information, and they're voting with their hearts and not with their heads. Please respect the wishes of the voters so that you are not part of the loss of our republic.
Hi, it's Dennis Chevalla, 31 Bentley Court again. I wish I'd known you were allowing people to speak because I spent hours prepping my speech to keep it to 3 minutes, and I did.
You can't come back up. It's one time per.
Okay, just a comment, if you can, consider declining the waiver and take him to court. Let him take you to court. Okay. And the second, I strongly suggest you relook at the studies that were done to justify the 500-foot easement waiver.
Thank you. Again, it's one time per person. So, is there anybody involved?
It's not a street lighting issue.
What's that?
People speak for 20 minutes, 5 minutes back, we'll get it.
Okay, it was
Don't,
Got it.
don't get into it.
Okay.
Not gonna answer that either, huh?
No. Go ahead.
Do I gotta repeat myself?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask about street lighting, no.
I
No,
know, but
you
it's
can't
one
speak
person
again.
per
It's the
person.
second time.
It's one
It's just,
time
it's a
per-
separate issue.
Yeah, but
You
it's,
can come back up at the end.
What's it?
You can come back up at the end of the board meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. It was just about Wyatt. I wanted,
Yeah.
Wyatt Drive, about the, where they had to move the sewer. I just wanted to know about the cost.
Got it, okay. All right, anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to move to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
We do have a consent agenda this evening. I'm going to ask our town clerk to please read tonight's consent agenda.
Councilmember Lavin, 1. Town Attorney, 1, 2, 3. Town Clerk, 1, 2, 3, 4. Building Maintenance, 1, 2, 3, 4. Central Alarm, 1. Controller, 1. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3. Economic Development, 1, 2. Engineering, 1, 2, 3. Highway, 1. Human Resources, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Planning, 1, 2. Police, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Senior Services, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sewer Plant, 16, 1, 2, 3. Youth and Rec, 1, 2, 3. Communications, refer to Traffic Safety and Highway. 2, refer to Attorney. 3, refer to Attorney. 4, refer to...
Okay, I'm going to motion to adopt this evening's consent agenda.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
And
Do we have anything to
we
vote on?
have 2 items still on the agenda.
Human
The
Resources,
first item is, where is it?
lease,
Yeah, the first item is Resolution 1039. It's a police officer / police department. There are 6 positions, is now 5.
Yes, one potential recruit denied, refused the position,
Okay, so
or changed their
with that,
mind.
I'm going to first motion the original resolution as it appeared in our agenda.
Second.
On the question, a motion to amend the resolution to read 6 positions.
No, to
uh,
read
5 positions, sorry. 5 positions in place of 6. Also, that's my motion.
Second.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
And next, I'll motion the original resolution as amended.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
The next, we got any more?
I think that was it, we have a couple suspensions.
Yeah.
Okay, next I'm gonna motion to exit the regular agenda for purposes of suspending in 2 items.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Deputy
I
Supervisor?
do it.
Sure.
So we have, the first one is from our town attorney's office regarding Lawley Insurance Proposal Binder. Should I read the entire verbiage, Sam? It just says kindly adopt
It
the,
appears on the screen.
okay, but it says kindly adopt the resolution authorizing the supervisor or town attorney to bind insurance coverage in the amounts outlined, which you see on the screen, and authorizing the supervisor to execute all related contracts and insurance binders with respect to the specific coverage pending successful completion of the contract routing system, and I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And then there is a second suspension from Jeffrey Burrows from our town engineering department. And he's asking council members, we are requesting town board approval, God bless you, to purchase an 8.5 times 16 enclosed trailer to be used for confined space operations. The quote bid tab is attached. The purchase is from LOE Trailer Sales of Western New York LLC, 40 Connecting Boulevard, North Tonawanda, New York, 14120, for a total cost of $12,234.70 per the lowest quote. Funding for the purchase is available from budget code G 9000-2550, which requires town board approval. The request is pending successful completion of the contract review process, and I so move.
It should be contract routing system, isn't
Okay.
it?
CRS process.
Yes,
CRS process.
it
All in
should be.
favor?
Aye.
All right, a motion to return to regular agenda.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to open the second round of public expression if you have an item that you have yet to speak about.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Joe Stalteri, 23 Rhinewald. I wasn't going to speak again, but Supervisor Culpa reminded me of something when he mentioned the reval. I was told by somebody recently that the thinking or the old rule, I guess, is that the commercial tax base supported the residential tax base. So is that true, or is that?
could you repeat your name again? We didn't really hear it the first time.
Joe Stalteri, 23 Rhinewald Street.
So, I think in the village of Williamsville, where you have a square mile, and you have Main Street driving the commercial, it's more of an even balance. In the town of Amherst, where we have the density of residential that we have, it's probably a little bit more offset. It's hard to tell because we have a tremendous amount of commercial value.
Well, that's where I'm going with this whole thing. So nothing's the same now post-COVID. So all these people that are working from home, and they like working from home, and they like to walk their dog in their lunch hour, and they don't have to pay for childcare and all that kind of stuff. What's happening is you go down SJ or International, and it's like a ghost town. And so all these companies, whether it's Independent Health or Simonelli, they're all going to be looking to renegotiate their assessments because, as I understand it, the assessments are based on occupancy. Is that true? I don't know.
It's partially based on lease, but the reality is, if there's a company leasing the building, then it's leasing the building. The dilemma that we run into is commercial challenges. We do fight those internally fairly vigorously, and so the town does push back on our Article 7s.
Well, what I'm getting is, instead of worrying about this 11.4 for this year, which you promised you might give us a tax break next year, no guarantees. But don't we really need to brace ourselves for a tsunami of all these white elephants that are scattered around the village, the town, the city of Buffalo, all over Western, for that matter, all over the country, of these office buildings that are maybe being used a third of what they were in their heyday? Isn't that really what we need to worry about going forward? Because we're not going to be getting the tax base from these commercial buildings because we're in a new age now?
It's one of the things that we're worried about with retail, and of course, we have that fear of commercial space with office.
Right, so
yes.
now you're reimagining, and people are giving you a hard time about reimagining the Boulevard Mall. So I just thought I'd throw that out because I wasn't, you reminded me of that when you mentioned it before.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess this is public discussion too, I can speak, right? Thank you. Okay, so what I heard after the fact.
State your name and address.
Oh, Dennis Shavala, SZYWALA, 31 Bentley Court. What I heard after the fact was that I believe the town board is actually for not granting waivers to the private developers in this particular case and similar. And I also heard that there was a concern that maybe they had just got over the hurdle, but you weren't really sure. So my answer is deny the waiver, let them take you to court. That will take years, and maybe they'll be willing to come up with some other alternative. But more importantly, what I'm concerned with is the origination of this project. There was a waiver of a road coming into Klein. And I don't know the system. I don't know who gave the waiver. I don't know if that goes up to here already, whether it's a done deal like the Constitution of the United States. But that waiver is going to cause serious problems. The streets are going to be tight, and I would hate to be somebody who would look back and say, that poor child that got hit by that car, gee, if I had just not let them waive that street, I would have been, I would sleep with good conscience. There are some serious traffic issues. There's also a lot of concern by the residents that the traffic studies that were done are not appropriate for the situation. I understand they were done during COVID, there was all kinds of timing issues, and I would like to suggest that if you can, to require new traffic studies. You seem to have a lot of knowledge, Brian. Why don't you tell me what I'm saying that's wrong or right?
It went to the ZBA.
I was going to say, the project's not a matter in front of this town body. It's not something that we have control over. It's regulated either by the zoning board or the planning board. In that circumstance, we don't have an authority to override one of our other boards.
So even if the traffic studies were not accurate, there's no way to override that? Because nobody in the neighborhoods were aware of these traffic studies until after they were approved.
It would be up to the body that made the decision to issue the waiver.
Actually, there were neighbors at all those meetings. I'm the liaison, and I go to those meetings, and I heard people speak about that. So they were aware. Maybe you weren't, but some were.
Okay. You can come back up to the microphone. I'm sorry. Okay. So we.
This is actually a great dialogue, and the problem is your system is a monologue. So you have some questions, you go back and you say, well, now you got other questions, but you don't get to talk.
Understood.
It's the same problem I have with my sons texting me. Then you give them an answer, and it's a completely different question again.
Thanks.
So back to the 500-foot waiver, which I think was suspect. What are ways to require that be redone?
It cannot be redone.
I don't know. You'd have to ask our attorneys, and if you send an email, I can forward it to our attorney. We can clock it as a communication and get you an answer.
So I send an email to you asking if.
Then we'll refer to the attorneys.
That refer to the attorney about this topic. All right. And again, you said you're for the people. I even voted for you. But
I understand.
Let them take you to court. That's what the courts are for.
Okay, thank you.
Technically, public expression is capped at 1 hour, for its absolute ultimate job, but we are giving 3 minutes.
Brian, in order to
Good
do
evening.
that, you have to stop.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Nick Alterio. I live at 4 Seasons East. This is my first time speaking before the board, so I apologize if this is not at the correct time, but I had a question regarding the new law for transparency that Mr. Lavin had proposed. Is now the correct time to discuss? Okay. So my request is concerning Section 5 of the law to enhance transparency and participation in the town of Amherst budget process. The first paragraph, town shall hold at least 3 public hearings specifically on the proposed budget, allowing citizens to provide input directly, at least 1 public hearing being held at the Amherst Senior Center or other such location designated by the town board, and at a time convenient for older adults. I think this is laudable and correct to make sure the elderly are being included. I would also like to suggest if we could have a provision in this law to make sure we include the younger families and the younger people who do not necessarily have the time to make these meetings. I can personally attest, as I'm sure many of you can relate to, it's difficult between family obligations and activities to make the 7 p.m. meetings. Humbly request that we have perhaps a virtual and or a weekend meeting for some of these budget hearings. That is all that I have to request.
I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Cox, I live on Harlem Road, and I will be brief. I know it's been a long night, but I would like to publicly tell Debbie Buckeye, thank you for your many years of service to the town and the committees that you worked on. You were always diligent in your work, and you always answered the questions that were asked. And I know we've been to a lot of meetings that went a lot longer under former supervisors, so this is nothing new to some of us.
Thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you. Congratulations. I hope you won't be a stranger to town hall, and we'll see you back on a committee somewhere doing something, but I understand if you're not. So good luck, and thank you.
Jackie, watch here. Don Smith, North Lawn.
Oh, I wasn't talking to you. Oh, you're answering my question before I asked. Thank you.
I too would like to thank Debbie Buckeye. She has been anything but upfront and honest with me at every time when I've had a chance to talk with her, and many times I've talked with her on many different issues. She's been helpful. She's been knowledgeable. She's been responsive. She's been thoughtful, and she's been honest. Those are things that I value. So I thank you very much, Debbie. Sorry to see you go, but I understand what the story is. I don't even want to be here anymore, frankly, tell you the truth. I'm getting too old for this.
I'm gonna miss it. In all honesty, even a meeting like today, I'm gonna always remember this, and I'm gonna miss this.
Well, I also miss, well, I missed the Satish Mohan era, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
what I
you told
started
us
with.
that before.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I started with. That's my frame of reference.
Yeah. Well, so the situation I saw tonight was nice to see. I'm so used to meetings where there's like 3 people here, or 4 people here, or 5 people here. In some respects, you better be, you're sort of, you wish there was more people here, and sometimes you regret it, them being here in the first place. So it's a double-edged sword here. But I do like to see people here. But frankly, I'd like to see them here more often and thinking with their brains first, and not with their anger. That's what I like to think, because there's a lot of information out there. Now, there was an awful lot of information provided to this town board by several people. Jennifer Snyder was great. Sam Samantha Smith was great. There was a number of really great people out here that surpassed my skills at being able to give you information. There are people out here that if you listen to them, you're going to be able to do a better job. The second situation is your rules of order. Once you stop observing your rules of order, you don't need a guy over there trying to throw them in at in the ninth inning, saying we're going to now start observing your rules of order. Once you give them up, forget about trying to enforce them. It's not the time to do it, because you make yourself look stupid and foolish when you try and do it.
Sir, you're out of time. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't worry, I know who you are. And by the way, all these meetings are on YouTube. I got software tools to measure everybody's time and what they did here. So I'll have some information for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
And, good luck, Debbie. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, village board members, or town board members, I'm sorry. I get confused. My name is Thomas Frank. I reside at 5403 Main Street. And I'd like to, in conjunction with the village, the community plan that's a work in progress, that related to the joint parks project that you have on Ellicott Creek. What I would suggest is I'd like to propose.
Excuse me, there's someone speaking. Thank you.
I'd like to propose an agenda resolution for the town of Amherst Central Park Greenway for 2050 as a joint board with the village of Williamsville as far as interconnecting the parks, including the various, as far as the Greenway, that in New York City, you've got 42 miles of the East Coast Greenway that goes from Calais, Maine to Key West, Florida. The Greenway model, which is based on the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management, it's a contingency plan. It's the model for the Hudson River Greenway and the Genesee Valley Greenway and the Niagara River Greenway. that in the actual relicensing of the Niagara Power Project, they shut it off at Niagara Falls Boulevard. But what is proposed, and this is like the second or third phase of the Greenway, having to do with Ellicott Creek and Tonawanda Creek as being, they're connected to the Niagara Watershed Greenway, as well as the Tonawanda Creek, which is a part of the Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor, which the bicentennial is going to be in 2025, and where the canal comes into and the village of Williamsville, where you're sitting, that this place played a strategic role in making the concrete for the canal. And the reason why the village was incorporated in 1850 was to connect Ellicott Creek to the Erie Canal. And so there's an opportunity here where the canal comes into Tonawanda Creek. Is one of the most geographically historic locations in the country. And it's why New York became the financial capital of the world. And most people don't even know it's there. You're welcome. I'm looking forward to collaborating with the planning department.
Thank you.
And we're
thank you.
oh, excuse me. Well, let me just finish that. We're,
No, thank you. You can talk to us another day.
okay, I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Alicia Schreier, 79 Tristan Lane, back again. First time I spoke to you, I spoke from what I wrote. And since this is a second opportunity to speak to you, I'm going to now speak to you from my heart. Okay, I want you to imagine yourself buying a home in an established neighborhood and looking out your window, you see the beautiful green out your backyard for 30 years, and everything is already taken. You don't think anything new is going to happen in your backyard. But now, some developer wants to put up a bunch of stuff where there was perfectly a green area and wildlife. And part of the reason we live in the neighborhood we live in is because of the wildlife. We enjoy it. And the developer is, proposing to destroy this for us. So I just ask you, as my neighbors, fellow people who live in Amherst, people who look out your own back windows and want to see what you're seeing, probably something lovely. That's what I want to continue to see, something lovely out my back window. That's what I bought, okay? Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Christine Kozil at 59 Kingsway. I just wanted to clarify. Sorry, Christine at Kozil at 59 Kingsway. I just wanted to clarify a little bit about why my neighbors are kind of fired up about this. This happened during COVID. We were never mailed letters because our letters were misaddressed. So our neighborhood didn't even know about this until a week before the meeting. And then on top of it, it was over Zoom. And then when they talked about the 500-foot, they were going to waive that to put in this extra street. The planning board said, and it's on the tape, they're like, yeah, we all talked about this before, right? Everybody understands? Okay, everybody in favor? Aye. And that was it. They did not have any accurate traffic assessments. This town of Amherst did an accurate traffic assessment, completely contradicted. They left off 2 streets, 154 homes of traffic. We've had bald eagles. A bald eagle can't even stop this project. I mean, it's really insane, and we're kind of just being steamrolled at every step of the process. And we're just kind of like at our wits' end about this, and I'm just begging you to just don't give up on us and really do anything that you can to help us, because we've had so many accidents on our tiny 3/10 of a strip of Klein Road. The Williamsville Central School District Transportation Department is not happy about this at all. It is a known dangerous area. Kids are going to be standing there. We've had mailboxes ripped off by cars going over 55, 65 miles an hour on this residential street. And I just think that this whole process, the residents really have been steamrolled, and I think that's why we're kind of, tempers might be flared a little bit, but I'm really asking you not to give up on us. Thank you.
Jim Gramke, Ruskin Road. Couple of comments regarding the budget. This weekend, I went to the Audubon Library to look for a copy of the budget. The sewer district and special districts was in the library, but they couldn't find a copy of the actual budget prior. I know things happen, but the person I asked didn't even know where it would be to begin with. So, on transparency, maybe they could be a little more, have copies. I did find the budget online, and one thing that was curious was that in several instances, and I couldn't go through all, but in several instances, the request for the budget that was prepared by the department heads was lower than the amount that was put in for the supervisor's budget. So the supervisor's budget had higher amounts in some instances where the departments had requested lower amounts, and the supervisor's higher amounts, in several cases, I don't have the exact number, but the higher amounts went in. So I found that to be a curiosity. As it relates to the November 9th meeting, that was interesting because in the October 30th meeting, I saw the videotape, and Supervisor Culpa, you said that you were going to go to the very limit to November 20th to find ways to, I think, reduce the taxes. And yet, you called a special meeting the day after the election on November 9th. Councilman Berger, you were 10 minutes late to the meeting, a meeting that you had approved at the October 30th meeting. You were 10 minutes late. Half of the meeting was spent with Mr. Lavin reading his proposal. Not once did any member of this board ask questions about the budget or propose any reductions in the budget to reduce the amount. And I know, Ms. Buckey, that you voted against it. I appreciate that, but even you were silent on, as far as questions. So I found that to be a curiosity. Yeah, so that's it. Those are just some comments that I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll motion to adjourn the board meeting.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.